Welcome to the Feminine Mistake Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Nicole, and today I am joined by
Hillary, Sarah,
and our special guest today is actor and amazing human, Brian Ashton Smith.
Oh, shucks, guys.
Welcome, Brian.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
I'm excited
Happy to be here.
that you're here.
Me too.
All
Thank you, guys.
Today's movie that we're going to be talking about is 3 Men and a Baby, 1987, right?
Yes, yes.
Let's get into what was everybody's experiences with 3 Men and a Baby before the podcast.
Yeah, I loved this movie as a kid. I watched a whole lot. It was like one of the 4 VHSs that I had readily available to my little hands.
You only had 4 VHS tapes?
Probably more than that, but I only remember watching like 4 of them. Wow. So this was one of my fave movies. I do not remember a whole lot of it.
So it was one of your favorites,
Yeah.
but you may have mixed it up with another movie.
Yeah, I may
perhaps.
have only remembered one scene of it.
Okay.
In my life.
Which
one?
Which one? Well,
the final one. Well, one of the final ones, I guess.
okay. Well, we'll get there.
The final one,
We'll
where
get
it
there.
should have ended.
Where it should have ended. There was
get to
there are
it. Kept
arguably more. There's arguably more than one ending to this movie.
Yeah, it should have
Fair,
ended.
yeah.
It should have ended at
So
the part that I
Hillary-
remember.
Interesting. I'm curious.
Fond emotional connection to this movie. Very little actual memory.
Yeah. And also, I think that Tom Selleck was like my first, I guess, realization that I was a sexual being at a young age.
I had like a third sexual awakening while watching this movie.
Oh yeah, I did too.
As I-
I was like having a hard
What
time.
was your
I don't know. There was like
second.
probably an actual sexual awakening before that in sometime in my late teens. Han Solo,
Okay.
Yeah.
and then of course Tom Selleck.
I'm not going to lie. As a straight man watching this movie, I was like, I could see why people like Tom Selleck. That man he just like exuded masculinity. And like his mustache was
God, I
epic.
know.
Epic mustache and the chest hair on that guy.
So, yeah, it was so nice.
And he's so
okay, I see it.
sensitive.
He was wearing like billowy shirts all the time, and like he was an architect. He had a good job.
Not
like
as
he had his own
billowy as
apartment.
Good job.
Like,
He was solid.
He was
I would have wifed him up.
Oh my god.
Like hard. I would have
was
made
so
many
attracted to
babies.
Tom
He seems
Selleck.
like a
Oh my God.
dad to me. I'm not attracted to him because I feel like he's like this dad person.
So you wanted him to father you?
But I feel like
Yes.
there's a lot of appeal in like how quickly he responded to fatherhood.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
really
He
cute.
was like the
I
one
know.
who was like, we got to do this. Let's do this.
But
Right?
I always associate mustaches with dads because my dad had a mustache.
My dad did too, but it's still there's no denying a good mustache. I see why my mom liked
They're
it.
back.
I get it. I
back.
get it, mom.
I know.
But
Mustaches.
yeah,
I'm growing mine back.
as a youngster,
Yeah?
I was definitely like attracted to his like muscles and like his manliness. But like watching it now as an adult woman, I'm like, oh my god, he loves kids. He's so hot.
He's so stable.
Oh my God, he's so stable. Why isn't there a man out there like that?
Oh man. Sarah, what was your experience with 3 Men and a Baby?
I had always heard of this film. I always knew the name of it. I always knew it was about 3 men and a baby, and I assumed they
it's
like
all in the
were
title.
stuck with it somewhere in New York. And for some reason, I just have this flash of like these 3 men walking down the street in New York with a baby. I don't think that was actually
an episode of Friends.
I don't think that was actually in this movie, but for some reason that's what I associated with it.
And then they left the baby on the bus.
Yeah.
And then they had to
no.
go down to the DMV.
Similar
left the
clothing
baby.
choices, but not the same thing.
Well, once again, I had not seen this movie before the podcast, so
Awesome. So this is fresh
Yes.
eyes for you.
I remember loving this film as a kid. I'm in the same book as you, Hillary. I don't remember this film. There were things
Oh.
about it. I was like, that happened?
Right?
All I really remember was, this really sweet scene of 3 men singing to a baby.
Oh yeah,
It was,
that
like,
one's
so
a
sweet.
classic.
That's
Yeah.
me too.
Classic
That's
scene.
it. Like that, and maybe like Tom Selleck holding the baby
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
staring lovingly at it.
And
That's all I
the funny
remember.
moments of them figuring out how to be
Yeah.
fathers at that point.
Yeah.
Like I remember those details, but then there was this whole other storyline.
I
There's
know.
a big
Then it was like,
subplot there that I did
what?
not know about.
I would argue an unnecessary subplot, but
Yeah.
we'll get there.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right. So,
what about you, Nicole?
well, I'm old as fuck, so I saw this movie in the movie theater with my mom, and we watched it a lot on, of course, on VHS. We watched this movie repeatedly. It was a big popular one around my house. I remembered a lot of it, even the things. We'll get to this like subplot you guys are talking about, but I do recall the subplot. Like I had, it's funny. When we picked this movie, and I think this is one of the ones that I suggested, I expected to come in here and talk about how, oh gosh, when they talk, kind of like with Mr. Mom, where you're like, oh, why is it so funny when men take care of babies? But there was like a lot more going on in this movie than I gave it credit for in my memory. Like I thought the movie was more about bumbling dads bumbling around and not knowing how to be, caretakers. But it surprised me that it was
totally surprised me
about more than that, which
characters,
was pretty cool.
There was a lot of characters that I felt for that I just didn't think I would.
Right.
Going into I had certain expectations about the film before rewatching it, and
me too.
This movie completely surprised me in a lot of ways for the better.
All right, so that was our experience with Three Men and a Baby before the podcast. So let's get into talking about this movie.
You seem sort of distant.
Let's just do it, man. You look stupid and rich.
The house is a mess, Jack. The kids are a mess, Jack. You're a mess, Jack.
You have been a total bitch ever since you came to New York.
Fascist.
All right, let's get into it.
All right, let's talk about Three Men and a Baby. Yeah. We were talking a bit about this before the mics went on, that this is actually a remake of a French film, which
Troisième est un couffin.
It means three men in a cradle, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Three Men in a Cradle.
I didn't know that this was a remake, but I have a French professor from high school, France Belleville, who's an amazing human being, one of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
Who told me about that. She was like, she told me she was gonna listen to the podcast.
Oh,
but
exciting!
like,
well, hello there.
Hi, France. If you get a chance to look at the older version, it's a really great story. So I was like, I'll have to check that out sometime.
We should. I would love to check that out because I've never seen that. I didn't know until I started kind of looking into it because we always like to look up and see like who wrote the movie and all that. And
I didn't know until right now.
I apologize to your teacher, but I'm going to butcher this. Actually, let me see if Sarah's actually really good with French pronunciation. So that's her name right there.
Colline Serrault.
Anyway, so she wrote and directed the original film. All the American producers and whoever adapted the screenplay, those were all men. And then it was directed by Leonard
Nimoy. I had no idea. I was
all people,
right?
What?
Spock himself.
What?
That was awesome. Yeah,
directed this film.
Yeah.
So that was surprising. I didn't remember that at all.
Also, can I just say anytime anybody says the French version, I immediately picture the whole thing in the nude, and I don't know why, because I think it's like sometime in my childhood,
accurate,
someone was like, yeah, it's the French version, so it's done in the nude, and I was like, that makes sense. And so now anytime somebody's like, yeah, it's a remake of a French film, I'm like, is it all nude?
So it's like three nude men and a
three
baby.
nude men and a baby. That's
like,
weird.
If it was this cast, like I'd be like, all right.
That might.
They just held a cradle.
I don't know if I've got nothing
against.
I've got nothing against the Goot, Steve Guttenberg, as I like to call him, the Goot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I need to see him in the nude.
I don't need to see either
It
of
would
those
serve
men.
to make Tom Selleck look more attractive.
I feel like
masculine,
I don't know if
though.
I could handle Tom Selleck fully nude. Like that might be too much for me.
I can tell you that'd be too much for me. Yeah.
I think that
sounds
Steve
great to me.
Gutenberg is cuter than Tom Selleck because
What?
Steve Gutenberg doesn't have a mustache.
What?
If he grew a mustache, how would you feel
He
about
would
it?
be terribly unattractive.
Look, we all love the Goot, but I do not think you can say that he is more attractive. I mean, I don't want to tell you what to think, but
I'm telling you.
there's no way that Steve Guttenberg is more attractive than Tom Selleck. I cannot
It's mustaches,
accept that.
man. I just can't stand the mustache.
in that.
Yeah.
All right, so back to this movie. So the movie opens with this song. This movie opens with a song,
Boys will be
right? Which
Bad
is
boys,
a
bad
phrase
boys,
that I hate.
boys will be boys.
Right, it's bad boys, boys will be boys. Nothing but trouble. You know, it's just, and we see this kind of montage of them. Well, first of all,
being womanizers. That surprised me. In the
Well,
beginning.
one of them
Well, no, they're all bringing.
like
There
all
are
of
women
them
coming
were
in.
just
I mean,
like-
come on.
There-
Tom Selleck has like an after jog fuck. Do you remember that?
Yes, but he
jogging
only
passed a woman and was just like, I'm taking you home, and like he
just
just
turned
turned
around and
around,
followed her.
and then she starts following him back home. And
sorry.
Then later on, you see them coming
And then
out
they
of the
come
room.
out
Any
of the
man starts
shower,
following me
she's-
while I'm jogging, like even if it's Tom
But
Selleck
Hillary-
running behind me, I run faster. No
You're
way. Am I letting you catch up to me?
He's gonna get
Like,
pepper sprayed.
But
I
Yeah,
need that
I
Tom
hear-
Selleck kind of game where you can just like jog past a woman, and then
I
all
bet
of a
you could
sudden
have that
guys-
game. I bet you could have that game, Brian.
I think you
You
could.
wear those
I think
short
you should
shorts.
try. You should try that move.
You could do it.
It's true.
You gotta put the short shorts on. That's
But
what
okay, so
I-
I watched this very carefully, and yes, that did happen. He had his girlfriend plus that one woman, but Jack had 5 women.
That's true. A lot of
Jack
women
was-
coming out of Jack's
and
bedroom.
Michael had none.
Michael had one woman. They kissed on the elevator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that might be his steady gal though.
But you
Yeah,
never
Michael
saw her
mostly
again. It was
painted the
just-
whole
just
time.
Yeah,
that.
Michael was mostly painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't mention this, but during the opening, Michael, played by the Goot, is an artist, and he's painting a mural in the entryway, I guess, to their apartment.
To their
A
penthouse
very
Bachelor
elaborate,
pad.
yeah,
Very
which was designed by Tom Selleck, the architect.
Oh God.
And I don't know
love
what
architects.
I don't know what Ted Danson's role in making this apartment happen was.
No, he
didn't
was
seem-
just an actor
He's
who like
just like-
brought the booze and ladies
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
He like brought the
apparently.
booze and pussy, and they were like,
I
"You're
need
fine
a, I
here.
need a
You
place
can
to
have a
live,
room."
guys. Can I stay here? Like,
Yeah, that seemed to be the case. So he's painting a mural. Women are coming and going. I'm really hoping that Jack, played by Ted Danson, I'm hoping he gets tested a lot because it's like a revolving
Yeah.
door of ladies coming and going. But they had this very like brotherly family relationship, so I think they had some kind of code. They must have had some kind of
No,
code.
they
think?
weren't setting
don't
that
think-
part up in this first part.
They
though.
didn't. Yeah, they didn't set that
I
up.
don't
And
know.
plus,
Okay.
I think that not all men have like that code.
that
Yeah,
bros
but
They
before-
did.
They
Like,
did
you
have
realize
some
that
kind of
around
code.
it.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say it because it's such a terrible phrase.
What?
but bros before hoes?
Oh, well, I mean, I think that's kind of the vibe at the beginning of this.
Yeah?
I think that's the vibe at the beginning of this movie. Like they're very like
And
they
even
love each
throughout.
other, but they don't seem to love.
Women.
Yeah.
It's not that
Yeah.
they were mean towards. I want to, it's funny that the song "Bad Boys," "Boys Will Be Boys," but they're not like creepy or threatening. I didn't
No.
think
Yeah,
they're
they
not,
were
but
just
they
guys
also
having a
don't-
lot of
they don't
sex.
put
They don't
the-
have
the,
commitments.
The women in their lives first. Like they
No.
It seems like their friendship with each other is more important than the women that they
Oh,
date.
absolutely. But the
yeah.
women don't seem particularly upset about it
Yeah, no.
either.
Yeah, most
they
of
all
them
seem
kinda
fine
seem
There
with
was
it.
even the scene when, like, at the end of the party in the
Yeah.
beginning, like, Jack was like, hey, I can send this girl home. We can just have a boys' night. And they were like, no, you go out and you do you, Jack.
You have fun, right? But even the woman the next morning, that woman, Jack is already
Yeah.
gone in the morning when she wakes up,
she
and
comes
she's
out and says
just
hi,
bantering
and, like-
with Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
She's like, I think he stole my moose.
While he's sitting there just rowing away.
Just rowing away with his sweaty chest. Okay, so
Stop it, Nicole. Take a
but
break sooner than we thought.
right, but I mean, I think the big thing is they're painting a mural in their apartment, this fancy apartment in New York that they share of each other. This is a huge commitment,
And they're like in their the first scine is
They're in
the
their, like,
late
40s.
30s, early 40s
Yeah.
party. And I was like, that's weird.
well,
but
no, I
okay.
mean they're
That
hetero
sounds
life
chill as
mates.
hell. I love it.
They're hetero life mates. These guys.
I would love to just
Yeah.
bro out with people all the time into my 40s. That sounds great. And then one day have a baby come into the mix and just raise another life form with some of my besties. That sounds great.
It's amazing.
I'm not gonna lie. That sounds kind of like the life.
Yeah.
Just being around your friends all the time, and then all of a sudden, there's this kid that we can raise together. Sounds cool.
Yeah,
I would
normally you
totally-
just do it with
totally do
one
that.
person that you're
Yeah.
sexually
Which is-
attracted to,
you're right.
and they did it with two others that they were just emotionally attracted to.
Yeah, I mean, they are have
Yeah,
that is a
that's
deep
beautiful
friendship.
family.
Yeah.
That is a deep. It's deep enough that they're drawing a mural of themselves.
No, I love
Like that's
it.
not some.
Yeah.
It's not like Jack's not going to be moving out anytime soon because you're going to have to
Yeah.
paint over his face.
This is clearly a lifetime friendship.
this is a big commitment
Yeah, they
between
have
these
the
guys.
penthouse together. That's some commitment.
All right, so after this montage, the first scene is Peter's birthday. The Goot is going around with the giant 80s video camera.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Videotaping the party.
Yeah.
People are dancing, having a good time. We meet Peter's girlfriend, sometimes girlfriend, Rebecca,
Yeah.
I like her.
Who I
Yeah.
really like.
She's ballsy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And she's been with Peter for 5 years, but they're not exclusive. They see other.
But
Though Peter
Peter
seems to,
tells a different story,
Right.
I think
depending on the
he,
gender.
in his
Correct.
mind, he kind of claims her more than I think he really deserves to.
At this point in the party, we just see that Rebecca is kind of like this strong, feisty kind of woman. And there's some kind of gray area with their relationship. We don't get a little much more than that. So then we get to the scene where the Goot is using puppets to get women into bed.
Yeah.
He's doing a
has-
puppet
But
show.
apparently that's a thing that he's done like professionally. He's
he like draws
created this
his
puppet
cat.
and he's like really
No, it's
popular.
he's a
right?
cartoon.
He's a
character.
cartoonist.
He's
Kind
a
of like-
cartoonist. So
Yeah.
the puppet is of his cartoon character.
I think it's like a Garfield kind of situation.
Yeah. I kind of felt
Actually
like he was
seems
like
pretty
the
nice.
unlucky in love kind of dude
Yeah.
who like just met this nice girl at the party and was like, "Hey, you want to like come in my room, look at
And let
some
me
of my
put on
cartoons?"
a pervy puppet show for you.
And like, she was like, "Yeah," and then was like, "This is too much. I'm in love
My
with another
boyfriend
man."
liked your cartoon. Like,
Yeah.
I related
Okay.
to him
All right,
a
that's fair.
lot because
Yeah.
it just as the kind of person who's like, I'm gonna try and connect with you as a human being. It's not always just like, hey, let's have sex,
As someone who's been that girl before, yeah, I feel him. Like I've done that to a lot of dudes.
Have you really?
Yeah, like been the drunk girl at the party who like goes back to their room and it's just like,
I
I'm
don't
so
wanna
sad.
be
I
like
drink
me.
because my life is a mess.
Totally been there many, many times in my life. Like,
It sounds like you. You're too nice.
I hate that phrase, too nice.
I don't think there
Like-
is such a thing as too
No,
nice.
Yeah,
I do
but
think
a
there
lot
is
of
such a thing
realism.
as
And I think it's a
there's such a thing
subjective
as
thing.
too many puppets.
There's definitely a thing. It's too many puppets.
Like
So
That's not a problem you have, though,
one
Brian.
puppet is too many.
Yeah,
In a
don't have
romantic
any puppets.
situation.
That's a good
In
thing.
a
I
romantic
suppose.
situation.
So something else that we
I
learned
probably
during
would
this
put
first
in
scene is that Jack is doing a movie in Turkey and is going to leave soon.
Right. So Jack is leaving. He runs into a director he's worked with before in
Who's
commercials.
a commercial
Commercial
director.
director.
Yeah.
Anybody remember his name?
Yes.
He just,
Paul Milner.
yes, Paul Milner. So Paul Milner shows up and wants to leave a package
A
house.
delicate matter.
that he shouldn't mention to anyone, right? He's like, Jack, I'm going to be out of town. I need this package is going to be dropped off on Thursday. No,
Sunday.
Sunday. It's going to be picked up on Thursday. Just put it aside and don't worry about it. Which I can't think of any time that I would just be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, you can just leave
Leave
anything
your
here
package at my
that's
house.
fine.
Like, why not? Okay.
Yeah.
But Jack is fine with it. And then we move quickly past. I mean, it happens so quickly that you would just like miss it if
Yeah.
you were not looking for it.
Yeah.
But that's like the first plot point of the movie, just being like
Yeah.
dropped in there. So the part. So we get to the sort of the end. Does anybody have anything else to say about the party?
Rebecca asks Peter to go home. Like she seems like she wants to go home.
He asked her to stay.
Right, but no, I wrote this down because she came into the room with the TVs and
Oh.
said she wanted to go home, and he asked her to stay.
Oh, okay.
She was like,
okay.
"Let's go home now. Let's head out now." And
I thought she was asking for him to come out there because it was time to do the cake.
That's what I thought, too.
She's like, come out, and he's like saying he doesn't want to, and she's like, you're the man of honor, you have to come out
You
there
gotta
for the
be.
cake.
okay, yeah.
At the end, when the party is over, he asks her to stay, and he's like
night,
trying to
yeah.
put the moves on her, and
Yeah.
she's like, eh.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, she seems like she
And
is.
She says she has to be up at 7 for a pre-trial meeting, but there's something in her eyes that was like,
well, it's not just her eyes. She says, I thought that a sentiment made you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She seems like they've had it, like maybe she wanted to get more serious with the relationship, and he was just like, eh. And I think that's
And now
what's
he's being like lovey-dovey, and she's like, I thought you didn't want this.
Well, I
Right.
think he had a motive. Like it's
Yeah.
at the end of his party, and
He wants to bone down.
His options are all gone home. So it's just like,
Yeah.
Well, I think he does care about her.
I
Like
do
he's
too.
attracted to her, but he
Absolutely.
like doesn't want. It just seems like he's not like none of the men in the house seem to want any sort of serious relationship. What he says to her is, I'm not bothered by sentiment disguised as sex. So
Yeah.
he's actually quite clear about
yeah.
his situation. He's like, making a joke out of it, but she's not having it. She's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to go. So I think the lawyer, like I have a trial meeting. I think that's an excuse. I think she's
Yeah.
like, your punishment for wanting to be the boy that never grows up is no hand jobs for your birthday. So I'm going
You
home.
think so?
I
don't
think
know.
that's-
I thought I took her very literally. I thought she actually had something, to do the
No.
next
No,
day.
no, no,
and
no,
was
no,
just
no.
like, I'm
You
like,
just
what I
look-
have in my life is just as important as what you think you have going on in yours. So I need to go home because I have to be up early.
It was
So
just
bye.
something in her eyes that was just like,
We did find out the most important thing about Rebecca in this scene, though.
Yes.
It's that she makes out with her eyes open, which is real creepy.
It was so creepy.
so creepy.
I didn't see
the
it.
whole
Oh
movie.
no, I saw it.
Just like
Yeah.
wide
Every time she's like
eyed,
looking at him, making out, like
just staring at his nose.
Maybe she's
cross-eyed.
afraid that he's gonna like run off if she closes her
Maybe
eyes.
she was
Keep an eye
also
on that
scared of his
mustache.
mustache. Like maybe
Like,
she was like, it might
jump
eat
off
me.
his face.
if I keep my eyes on it, it won't
It's
move.
communicable.
Yeah.
That mustache. All right. So after the party, everyone has dissipated, and the bros are standing around talking about pronging chicks. I didn't make
yeah,
that
when
up.
the-
That
when
was
they-
literally a
that was-
line from
when
the
they
movie.
said pronging
Prong.
chicks, I was like, pronging?
I think I missed that.
Okay,
So I was
let me
just
back
like,
up for a
oh, that
second.
is-
So first, Peter and Michael are making fun of each other because Michael could not close the deal with the puppet. He was as Peter says, being the big brother
Yeah.
and solving her problems, and so he didn't score with that chick. Michael is making fun of Peter because Rebecca went home.
He's like, I'm a sensitive guy, and I've got more on my mind than pronging chicks.
Yep, that's what Michael
Pronging
says.
chicks.
I just wrote
And
down
then-
the word pronging for later use.
I don't
And
think
then-
I've ever
wait.
pronged a chick. I don't know what that is.
Jack enters.
know it when you do it,
Jack
Brian.
enters. Well, it's like it sounds
like
like
a fork.
skewering to me. It
It
seems
does.
Like
kind
a fork
of like
has prongs, so
violent
you're
to me.
forking.
you're forking. You're not spooning. You're forking.
if that's what it is, I can confirm that I have never pronged a chick.
You have never forked.
Just took on a whole
Forked?
different meaning, you
No.
guys. They're a bunch of prongs on a fork.
Right? So many
Which prong are you
Four
using?
dicks.
prongs.
4 dicks coming at you.
No,
Yep.
no, no,
Not
no,
done
in
no,
a
that.
no.
straight
Not done
line.
that.
Just yeah. So they're talking around, and then immediately Jack enters after Michael says that and says
Get a nice
he's
bottle of wine.
right. He's opening the bottle of wine. And he says, "Which vintage is best for pronging chicks?"
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is something they say more than once, and I feel like I just feel like
Was that just like a
pronging.
bad TV edit? Did we get like a bad TV
No,
edit?
No,
I think
no,
that's
no, no,
just-
no.
That was the
No, this is-
terminology in the 80s.
I just
for
feel like it's a
boning
very I've never heard that before, but I do feel like it's a evocative image that is not
It definitely is.
is not a picture that I really want.
In
When I think
all
of
honesty, like I feel like that's just the slang of that time. Like, is the slang that people use now, is that any better? Like boning or
But boning
what-
is actually very like.
I guess you're right.
creepy.
That is kind
Is
of
it any better? It's just we're more used to it.
boning. Boning
Banging,
sounds very
banging.
like prehistoric, though, isn't it?
It
Like
does.
boning is like we're gonna get into a cave
Yeah, like
and we're gonna bone on a dirt floor.
we're gonna bone. Yeah, banging,
Pronging
like
just-
all the slang.
I
it's
mean,
all
because
strange.
pronging, I don't know why, but prong somehow reminds me of like shrimp, maybe because of prawn. So I'm either
Prawning
thinking
chicks.
shrimp,
and it's not
maybe
a-
even shrimp on a fork. And it's nothing.
It's
That's
not,
not
the most
what I want to be
flattering
thinking
image
about.
for sex,
No.
regardless
No,
of
no, no.
how you're thinking of it.
I
guess
never want any
boning
kind of-
gives a little bit more like stronger image, but
So pronging chicks.
pronging chicks,
You listeners at home, you can use that at your next party.
right? We should bring that back.
Bring some shrimp.
Bringing back mustaches, like caterpillar
Mustaches and
mustaches,
pronging
pronging
chicks.
chicks.
And I'd like to point out that in this scene, I think what we're really getting is the types. I think each of these guys is a type. Okay.
Yeah.
So Peter, Tom Selleck's character, I would call the smart one.
Oh, I'd call him the dad type. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know why. I'm like, God, Sarah, he's not a dad. He's so hot. So Peter's the smart one. Michael is the sensitive artist. Right.
Yeah.
Although I
Who
think the
turns out not to be
casting
very
there is
sensitive
kind of
at all.
strange.
It's
I think the
weird, yeah.
casting of it is a little weird.
They were like, he has a round face. He could play sensitive.
Well, I mean, but I don't think he is sensitive. I think that's what they keep saying
They
he
keep
is because
saying
all
he
of his
is.
lines are like, "I'm so sensitive, I'm so," and he's the artist and he's the
Yeah.
guy who
Yeah,
draws.
But he
and-
doesn't
not.
seem that sensitive.
You saw his sensitive side when he's
Later.
trying. Well, I
Yeah.
think earlier when he was at the party trying to like hook up with this girl, and all of a sudden he's like talking about her ex-boyfriend and like trying to solve her problems, like connecting with the person on that level.
and not being like, screw that guy.
Yeah, and not like not saying like I'm doing whatever I can to just bone you or
Yeah.
I mean prong,
prong you.
excuse me.
Prong.
I think for the rest of the podcast,
The rest of the podcast can be
Prong,
prong.
Yeah.
And then that leaves us with Jack the Cad. I would call him the Cad.
sexy
cad.
The Cad.
Actually, he's not very sexy.
I think
Kidding.
he's supposed to be.
His
But
flowing blouses didn't do it for you?
I don't like his face.
and his like velvet jackets that he's always in.
Always, yeah.
He had a couple of linen suits, you guys.
He did a
He
couple.
grew on me, okay? He
Did
grew
he?
on me. I mean, not in a way that I find him sexual. Like, I mean, when Tom Selleck is in the room, who can you really look at besides
right?
him?
I mean,
But let me ask you this. Did you guys like these guys? Like, did you like them at this point? Because I watched it with Sarah, and Sarah had a very particular reaction to these guys.
I hated all of them at the beginning, and then by the end, I loved all of them. So it was a very big transformation for me.
At this point in the film, I think I probably related to the Goots.
To the Goot,
The
yeah.
Goot, his
Yeah.
character the most. I don't think that I liked any of them, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been just too soon.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I kind of agree. I didn't really like any of them at this point, but I did want to like bone down hard with Tom Selleck.
I would have
have a-
pronged him all day and night.
Just prong forever and
Hold
ever.
down hard.
Just like I would have lost my job. We would have pronged
Hillary,
for so long.
Hillary, you cannot prong someone.
See, you would have been that
Cannot
girl just
prong
running
someone. You can
down.
only,
I
you
would
can
have
only,
pronged the
You don't
crap
know.
out of him.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know
you
her
can
life.
only be pronged, Hillary. You can only be
That's what
pronged.
society
You are
says,
the
Sarah, but I
prongee.
refuse.
You would wanted to be
live by your
pronged by
standards.
him.
See, you would have been
show-
that girl
she'd
just
show-
jogging
show
down the
Tom
street
Selleck
and
some things
totally
he's never
turned
seen
your-
before.
Your whole date around just to go prong Tom Selleck instead.
I'm gonna call in
But
prong to
seriously,
work today.
this makes me think: what would the girl equivalent be? Because all of the sexual terms like boning and porking and all that.
I'm gonna
like, it's
wrap
all
my
about
vagina
men.
around that.
What is the female like?
I'm gonna envelop
I'm
that guy.
Yes.
I am gonna envelop
Oh my god, that's perfect.
Oh man.
vaginal hugs.
Vaginal hugs.
Vaginal hugs.
Oh, t-shirt. That's gonna be our next critical crop top t-shirt. Vaginal hugs for everyone.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the next morning, just to remind everybody about the plot, which is I think what this scene is. So we've got Tom Selleck on the rowing machine, just rowing away.
Getting out some of that
so
sexual
sweaty.
frustration
Clearly-
since Rebecca left.
Leonard Nimoy was like, I think you should do this scene rowing. Like you should just be rowing.
He's been rowing since
God.
Rebecca left.
Yeah,
like
ever
rowing.
since she left. You
Like,
gotta
I
get
can't
that
come yet.
out. I needed that hug.
But so Jack calls and leaves a message on the answering machine. Remember those guys? Answering machines.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jack leaves a message about the package. There's a package coming today.
It's a delicate matter. Don't say anything to
Right.
anyone.
Correct. Don't worry about it. Just put it to the side and don't worry about it.
Yeah, somebody will get it on Thursday.
Then after his
Just put it to the side.
rowing sesh, Peter goes on a run.
Yeah, he follows
Yeah,
it up.
which-
He follows that up that the rowing
Again.
session with a run.
I'm telling
Just
you,
like with
he,
those tiny
he
shorts.
really needed that hug. He needed to get that out.
He's like,
I know.
yeah, definitely. So he goes on a run. He comes back, and what does he find on the doorstep?
Well, first he steps
Baby.
Yeah.
over it and goes and closes his door, and then he's like, "What?" And takes
What?
a step back and sees that it's a baby.
Right, opens the door, sees his baby, shuts the door again.
And then just keeps looking in the hallway like there's a fucking tiger out there. He just keeps opening
These
that door like a
men
crack, and he's
Might
like,
as well have been a tiger.
These men are afraid of this baby.
Yeah.
like they do not want to touch it.
I would probably be afraid
Are
too.
you serious?
Like-
okay, I'm glad you're here because the whole time I was watching this movie, I mean, okay,
I'd be scared if someone left a baby
Yeah,
in
me
front of my
too.
apartment
I'd be
door.
scared
so
too.
cute though.
It's a really cute baby, but
Yeah,
like
but a baby does not
as a
belong
person,
there.
like without a child, like don't get me wrong, like I really want to be a father one day. That's one of the
Yeah.
things that I'm really looking forward to in my
Yeah.
life. But to go from no preparation at all, like I just came from a run. I need to take a shower now, and now
Like,
I have to
I am
take
not
care
clean
of a
enough to deal
baby.
with this
I don't
baby.
even. I don't know how to
Yeah.
do that.
okay.
So
All right,
I
so
would.
that's
I would
fair.
probably
That's
look
fair.
at it like, holy shit.
It's like somebody
That.
left a dinosaur or a shark on their doorstep.
Yeah. Although I will say, like, if somebody left a baby on my doorstep, like, yeah, I'd be freaked out.
I mean, let's face
but
it, you'd
also
call
I'd
me.
know what to
I would
do.
come and get it.
Like, yeah, I mean, like, I'd know what to do. You know, I'd know how to pick it up. But like,
Exactly, that's what
I
I'm
watched
saying.
this movie with Christo, and he turned to me and he was like, I don't know what I would do. He was like, I don't even know how to hold a baby. He was like, I wouldn't even know what to do in this situation. And I was
And
like,
I didn't learn how to hold a baby until I met your baby, Nicole. I'd never held
I mean,
a baby
human
before.
beings have like some kind of inner
I don't think so.
Like that,
something,
like,
right?
I don't
think
think so.
some
altruistic.
people
Like I
do.
want
Well, just like
pick up and nurture.
it's or just like a human to human, you know.
I don't think it's
don't know.
it's a
Well,
gi-
see,
a,
see,
a
that's
given.
the
I mean, I
like-
know I've been poisoned by motherhood, so my natural inclination is like, there's a baby. I mean, I wouldn't touch it if it was sleeping. Like when they see it, it's sleeping at first.
yeah.
But then it starts crying.
yeah.
And that baby cries for a long
Yeah,
time
no,
before
if
anybody.
a baby cries in front of me, I just want to pick it up. 'Cause
That's
like,
what I'm
it'll
saying.
stop
If the
it.
baby
Just
started
like, I
crying,
know
Brian
it'll
would like. They do not want to touch this baby. Like, would you pick it up?
I would pick the baby up and
That's
try
what
and
I'm saying.
rock it to sleep. But
Would you
but
hold
I'm
it
also a little
close?
bit more familiar with babies. Like I have a nephew. I think I'm a little bit more familiar
Right.
with babies than those three men are at that
But
point.
I
in their
mean, they've
lives.
seen a
Maybe.
baby on TV, though, right?
Yeah, I don't think
I'm
that's
just
enough. I've seen a baby on TV.
Isn't there like a
And-
natural human
No.
instinct,
I
like
don't
baby
know, like-
crying, pick up baby,
No.
right?
Like
I
I
don't-
was 13
Unless you're
probably the first time
familiar
I
with
like.
babies, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
You know, these are fully grown men who aren't used to being around babies. And there's so many rules with babies that you don't know.
Yeah.
Like you gotta hold their head a certain way, make sure their neck's not wobbly,
This
and
doesn't
like
seem
sterilize
to
their
be
hands
their
and all that.
consideration, though. Like they seem angry about its presence.
Well, because they're thinking it's a package.
Well,
Like,
yes, that's
Right.
true.
I think they'd
So,
feel really mad
so
with
let's
Jack.
back up a little bit. So
Yeah.
Peter discovers the baby. He calls Michael out there like this is some kind of prank. Like, what's this baby doing here? Nobody wants to pick up the baby. They find a note with the baby. They're like, what is it doing here? They find a note from Sylvia.
Dear Jack, here's our baby. I can't handle this. I don't know where else to turn. Someday I hope you both can forgive me.
So we haven't even addressed that. Like the mother straight up drops off this child dressed very nicely. She made sure to dress her up in her Sunday best.
A
Drops her
bonnet.
off with nothing else.
Nothing,
And,
just a bassinet, no food,
Like no
no
food?
diapers, no pacifier.
In case this happens to you, dear listeners, please call DFAX. Please.
Like they,
Do it.
yeah. So, but of course they think this is the package,
Yeah.
right? And so
Still,
they bring.
call DFAX.
And Peter's like, how could he call a baby a package?
Jack told him just put it aside, don't worry about it, which is terrible advice if you think that's a baby.
Well, he didn't. You're right. Well, they think that's the package. Jack doesn't know what the package is
Yeah,
going to be.
yeah.
So it's just kind of one of those movie coincidences where she
Yeah.
happens to dump the baby off on the same day that the package is coming.
Yeah.
It's not the package. We find that out in a few scenes, but
And
the
by the
baby
way,
wakes up and gets very upset and begins crying for the next 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. They were just
Yeah.
trying to figure out what to do.
Well, the
about
baby
it.
is screaming, and they're screaming at each other. Like, what do we do with it? Who's gonna? You pick it up? No, you pick it up. I don't want to pick it up. What do we feed it? They're like, well, let's feed it. If we feed it, it'll shut up. But they don't know what to feed it. So then Peter leaves to get baby food, and he says, and he's basically, and Michael's like, what? What do you mean? And he's like, well, the baby can't eat birthday cake and goat cheese, which, by the way, sounds delicious.
That does sound awesome.
I
Like
would
mix
eat the
those two
shit out of
together.
that.
Goat cheese birthday cake?
Yeah.
yes.
So Peter leaves to go to the store to get some baby food. He leaves the goot alone with the baby. And what follows, I presume, is some sort of improvisation between Steve Guttenberg and this baby.
this baby.
Baby.
Where he's like picking up ashtrays, he's like putting scuba gear on.
his
He
best
has
to make
He's
it
hand
making hand.
or origami, and then like he like yells at the baby, like sings a song, but like yells it at the
Like
much
an
he's having
insane
a
person.
breakdown.
He sounds like an insane person. He's like, and he's like, he sounds crazy while he's
Yeah.
yelling at this baby. So then they cut to Peter at the store, going to get the.
Being a real dick.
He is, but I do like the reveal of the baby aisle. Like I like how they
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
they kind of move the camera past all the aisles and you get to the baby aisle
So
and it's
all
like
the old things that are still
stocked
around,
full. Well, it's
all tied.
a ton of stuff in the baby aisle. It is kind of like if you were at a big like warehouse kind of, it looked like a kind of a Costco kind of situation.
Looked
It is
overwhelming.
can be overwhelming. I mean, there are a lot of brands. There's a lot of types.
But he got real snippy with that
He
old lady.
was.
Who
He was
just
a
being
real
nice and
bee
helping
with,
out.
with what was her name? Edna.
Yeah,
Edna.
Can I just say that I have never
Edna was
seen?
just trying to be helpful.
I've never seen boxes that big since the box of
Not
Kotex.
since the box of Kotex, the boxes of
Comically
diapers.
large
Yeah, those were
boxes.
pretty large diapers. I don't know what baby is supposed to fit in those diapers. We'll get there. We're
Those
not
look
at
like
that scene
adult
yet.
diapers.
Yeah,
I
those
think
were
they
like
bought
Depends.
He bought Depends.
So Michael's still trying to keep the baby quiet. Baby likes Dr. Ruth. He turns that off. The baby is still screaming. Miss Hathaway appears. Can somebody explain to me what her job is?
I don't know. Why does she keep coming into their
Is she just
apartment?
like a personal
Is she a
assistant to them?
neighbor? Is
think
she a
she's a
personal
neighbor.
She
assistant?
drops off the
Is she the
mail.
secretary?
I don't
She's not the
know.
door person because we see the doorman later.
Yeah.
And she can apparently just take off in the middle of the day to babysit a baby. So, like, is she the building manager? Like, who is she?
I thought she was like the lonely spinster neighbor who like was downstairs having her one good moment of the day chatting
But
with
it's
the
like
doorman.
it's like a
It
nice.
looks like an expensive building.
Well, yeah, but she can
apartment.
still be a spinster and live in a nice apartment. Jeez, you guys.
Well,
I'm just saying.
but why does she have their mail? Like, because she has the
because
package.
she was flirting with the guy downstairs. The mailman dropped it off, and she was like, "Ooh, a chance to go flirt with Tom
I feel like
Selleck."
Hillary's
okay.
writing a whole new
and then
movie
she went
about Miss
upstairs to flirt
Hathaway.
with Tom Selleck. I am Miss
maybe.
Hathaway, okay? I am her.
She's like, I am
the
get-
woman
I-
who just walks into three men's apartments hoping to get boned and is just like, hey,
Pronged.
Here's your
oh,
mail.
there's a baby in here instead.
Pronged. Excuse me.
Pronged. I'm sorry, you're right.
She,
I don't know. That's what I always thought she was.
she
a
brings
spinster.
the package, the actual
The actual
package,
package.
It's
which
blue.
is a
It's
tiny
like
little.
Like a Tiffany's box.
Tiffany blue, yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought it was like a. It
I
looked
didn't-
like
I
a
don't know
wrapped
any-
up book.
It looked like a wrapped up book.
Wrapped book.
Yeah, so it's a gift wrapped. We don't know what's inside of it yet.
So this, just for clarification, they mailed them this heroin? Like it went through the post?
I don't know.
think
I
it was
feel like it was
'cause
dropped
I think
off.
it just said Jack on the cover.
Okay.
On the cover.
I
of
didn't
it.
see it anything written on it. It seemed
'Cause I'm
blank
just
to
wondering,
me,
like,
but
how it arrived. Like, I know she delivers it.
it
but, like,
maybe
how did it
came
get
by
there?
carrier pigeon.
Carrier
That-
pigeon heroin.
not sure.
Okay.
How I imagine is one drug dealer dropped it off with the doorman and
Yeah.
said, "Give this to Jack," and then Jack was supposed to leave it.
That's
for a
actually what she
second drug
said. She
dealer.
says that some guy dropped it off downstairs, and then she took.
But,
So why not just deliver the package to those guys?
It's all very complicated. I mean, let's all lay it out right here. Like this drug subplot. So what's in the package is drugs. I think
Yeah.
we mentioned
Yeah.
this. There's
Heroin.
heroin in the package. This drug plot is legit ridiculous.
I don't
It's
remember
so
it
weird.
happening.
It's so
I don't
fucking
remember it at
unnecessary.
all,
So now we get to the iconic diaper changing scene.
which was way better than the one in Baby Boom.
yes.
Oh yes, yeah. No, I would
Way
agree.
better.
This one, I think. I mean, it was
But this
very
one was
accurate.
kitschy and cute, and it was very accurate.
It was very accurate. The diaper changing part, the giant pen-sized diapers were a little ridiculous. Like, I mean, that was kind of ridiculous.
Although I
but,
can see their thought process. The bigger ones will hold more, but
but those don't even look like diapers that would go in. that would be
they
in the
don't look
baby
like they would-
section.
No, they don't. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they try to get the diaper on. They the diaper they can't, again, much like in Baby Boom, they can't seem to figure it out. They can't figure out the tabs. They keep breaking the diaper.
Ripping diapers and-
And then they finally get the diaper on. The diaper falls off, and the baby pees all over the couch,
which I thought was hilarious.
is accurate. All right, so now we get to the taking care of baby montage.
They give her a bath.
It's one day, I think. This is
Yeah.
the one day.
They use a
Turkey
her
baster.
Well, I think
Yeah.
they're trying to. The baby is. I think the implication the baby is pooped again, and they have to clean off. They've got. It was so bad they had to put her in the sink. I think was what happened.
I did find the image of Steve Gutenberg squeezing a turkey baster at her butt was kind of cute.
Well, like basically, that he's like, you have to touch her. You have to clean the poop, and he's
From
like,
her
I don't
butt.
want to.
Yeah,
And he's
that's
like
too
squirting,
That's too
squirting her.
close. Yeah.
Then he puts lotion in the sink, like he
Right,
doesn't
to
wait for it to
moisturize.
dry off. She just puts it in the sink.
He's just like, we need some of this in here. That seems right.
Yeah.
But
this seems the.
And then they
like
like
the best
wrap
way.
her in a towel, and
And
then
she
she
poops the
poops in the
towel.
towel, and then they got to clean the towel. And I'm like, this is all very accurate. Like, this is essentially what happens. Like, sometimes I would change like 3 diapers like in a row. Like the baby, like I would change, like especially not at that age, but especially when they're like really young, like 2 or 3 months old. You'll like change a diaper. You'll put as you're getting the clean one on, they poop again. And then you got to change them again. And then sometimes you'll get more poop on the other diaper, or like they'll poop a 3rd time, and you'll go through like 2 or 3 diapers before you get a clean one.
Have
on.
you ever been pooped on, like on your face?
Not on my face. Like I've heard of people getting like poop shot at them.
Yeah.
Like, but no. Like I've gotten poop on my hands and on my clothes and on my bed. Like there are times when you're like changing a diaper in the middle of the night, and like you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, there's poop on my bed.
On my bed. Darn.
Oh well.
I've
And then
had
you just
the-
put like a burp cloth over it. And 2
I'll
hours
handle
later,
that tomorrow.
you're like, I'll just change the sheets tomorrow. I really liked the scene where the baby is finally asleep and then the police siren comes through. This happened.
all
This is
ran to
so
the door.
accurate where you're
Son.
like, finally get the baby to sleep and somebody opens a bag of chips or the dog barks and you're like, what the fuck? You know, like
He was asleep.
the baby is like picking its head up and you're like, no. I love how they're like shutting all the windows and like putting pillows up
Yeah,
around
he's like,
them.
he like guards
trying
her
to
with his
block-
body holding pillows,
trying
just
to block the sound wave.
And then the next day they show them being tired at work.
Okay, I do. Before we get there, I want to point out we haven't really brought this up yet, but Tom Selleck has a very impressive collection of grandpa sweaters that he is wearing throughout the film. And I'd like to point out in this scene when the baby is almost being woken up by the siren, he is wearing a grandpa sweater but no shirt. So
I
he's
did
like
notice that.
shirtless
It was,
grandpa
all the
sweater,
chest
just
hair,
chest
like,
hair
in the moonlight,
akimbo.
like oh, God,
I missed that. Wow.
clearly.
But his chest hair looks like
grandpa
pubes.
sweaters. No,
You are just very anti-hair.
I don't like hair. Oh, the hairier the better.
I don't know about that.
Look at Harry's sweater on somebody.
Just like, is that your grandpa
Take your
sweater or
off
your
and then
I-
still
body
see a sweater.
sweater?
I like chest hair, but I like seal chest hair, like
You
slick
like
down. I don't
hairless
like-
men.
You said
I don't
seal?
like seal, like you know how a seal is like slick. The
So you
hair
want
is
it like wet and able to repel water.
no, but I don't like
I'm gonna show you
pube
my
chest hair.
I'm curious. I'm curious. Like, what style chest hair are you all about?
I do like some chest hair. I don't
I
like
accept
the
that amount of
shaved
chest
chest
hair.
hair thing, but I'm just saying that like white men with the curly, like it looks like
It's like Italian
pubes.
It's
Yeah.
Italian.
Tom
or
Selleck
Jewish
is pretty
Jew.
hairy though.
Yeah,
Matt.
Jew-
like,
Jew chest hair.
He's got a thick fur on there.
Look, hey, I
I'm
think
good
the
with that.
Goot has an equally. I mean, maybe not quite as much as Tom Selleck, but they both have some pretty hairy chests.
hairy men.
Those guys.
Please don't hate me. I love you. I please I.
Hairy men,
don't
email us and I'll give you my phone number.
So the next day, they're still taking care of but Jack is still, they still cannot get in touch with the Jack who's in Turkey. They still think that Mary is the package and that somebody is going to be coming to get her in a couple of days. Peter is at the construction site. He's a zombie. Peter decides to call in for some help.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he calls Rebecca.
For an emergency.
Yes.
Yeah,
Love-
for our
Love this scene.
knowledge
Yes.
of
Oh,
her.
yes.
She's obviously very nurturing and motherly.
Well, you know, she's a woman. She has to be better with babies than me. I'm a man.
Right.
Exactly.
which is why
Was
I love this
what
scene.
I
Which is
love
why
the
she's
scene.
so great.
Yeah.
She's like, why would I be good with it? I don't have kids.
exactly. She shows up with a date.
With her date.
Yep.
That's my favorite
A
part. Is she's
cellist.
just like, this is so and so.
This is my date.
What was his name? Like Jan?
Jan or something. He's a cellist. And so
Who's
yeah,
also
he's
very
basically like,
oblivious.
hey,
Hilarious.
he's like
Very.
telling her,
Babies
he's
are
like,
great.
we don't know what to do with her. We don't know how to do this. We don't know how to do that. How do I do this? And what am I supposed? When am I supposed to feed her? The book says to do this.
Help
and
me.
Rebecca's just sitting there like,
I don't know.
I don't know any of these things. And he's like, what do you mean you don't know? And she's like, well, why should I know? And he's like, well, you're a woman. And she's like, that doesn't mean that I know anything about babies. And he's like, please stay with me and help me. And she's like, no,
I'm
I
on
have
a
a date. And I'm
I'm
like,
about to go get pronged. Sorry, bro.
right? And I'm like, yes, movie, yes.
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 She's like,
I'm
put
like,
your life
hell
aside for me
yes.
because I asked you to. And she's like, no.
She's like, I am not.
I love
going to
that. Which
be
this was
your-
the first moment that I was surprised in this movie because I was expecting a movie from the 80s to be like the rest of the movies from the 80s that we've seen, which is where this scene would have been like, oh yeah, sure, I'll help out,
And she's like,
you know, and she's like, no.
So then so the guys have had her for 5 days at this point.
Yeah.
And
Which
now,
seems like a long time to just like have a baby.
yeah,
all
I'm
of a
kind of
sudden.
surprised they didn't
Call
call the cops.
Yeah,
or
like, why
something.
would
Like
they-
it's weird that because I
Again,
mean,
if a baby
the
shows
baby
up on your
was
doorstep, call
abandoned.
DFAX.
Like,
Well, do you
even my
think?
bro
But they thought it was
tells
a.
me-
They thought
yeah.
it was the package.
You're
and they
right.
thought,
You're right. They thought it was the package, which again is weird.
But still, if a roommate of mine said, hey, there's going to be a package left on the doorstep. And then I come home and there's a baby. And I think that baby is a package. I don't care how much I love that roommate. They just abandoned a baby on the doorstep and asked me to look after it for 5 days.
Well, at the very
I'm
least,
still
I would
calling the
call that
cops.
roommate's parents. I almost said
yeah.
mom. I would call that roommate's parents.
They were really strict with adhering to that bro code. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
those guys were some serious bros.
Yeah, they really took that discretion thing.
yeah.
Well, in any case, two guys do show up to pick up a package. The incompetent drug dealers. And they give them the baby.
And then they talk,
and everyone's okay with
Awkward
this.
interchange.
and this is a part where that is used a lot in comedy, where two characters are talking about different things, but they sound like they're talking about the same
Right,
thing.
yeah, because
which is
Michael's
like,
talking
yeah.
with them about the baby, and
The
he's like, the
package, wink,
package, you know,
And then he's
is
like,
a
oh,
mess.
let me give you the powdered milk. And he's like, oh, yeah, the powdered milk.
Right, because they think they're there to collect drugs, and so basically they hand them the baby, and they're like, wait a minute. Like, they don't immediately leave. They're like, you
Yeah.
want us to take the baby?
I really want to know what their thought process was when they got handed a baby. Were they like, okay, I've just got to go home and cut this baby open to get the heroin out? Like,
Well, no, they
What
thought
was
that
their
there was the
thought?
powdered
Yeah.
milk. The
that
powdered
thought
milk
it was
didn't come
powdered
till
milk.
later. Like, they took the baby first, and
No,
we're like,
no.
okay,
He gives
baby.
them the powdered milk, and they think that's the drugs.
But
Okay.
why
'Cause
would
he-
they
I
not
saw-
just take the powdered milk and leave the baby?
Right.
Well, I
I
think
thought
they-
he tucked the powdered milk into the bassinet after they had already taken it. Like,
Well,
they
what
had
he-
the baby in their hands.
They
And we're
did,
like,
but they
this
weren't
is
about
right.
to take
Okay,
it.
here's what happens. So he hands them the baby. They're like, are you sure are you serious? Like, why are you giving us this baby? And he's like rattling off in instructions. He's like, I made you some bottles in there. I'm going to go get you the powdered milk. And the drug dealer goes, oh, wink, wink, the powdered milk.
Right,
And then he
but-
comes
but
back
if-
with the powdered milk.
but
And
why
he's
don't
like,
they
so
just-
you want us to take the baby? And Peter says, isn't that the arrangement? And he says, okay, sure. So he takes the baby with him, but he thinks that powdered milk is the drugs.
Brian, I
Yeah,
have to
and he
ask
thinks
you,
that the
would
baby's
you
just cover.
would you have just
Right.
given a baby away like that?
To
If you thought it was a
drug dealers.
Well, he doesn't know they're drug dealers, but still, the
just
whole
to
thing is
two
very
dudes
sketchy.
Who show
Just
up
to
at your
two
house
dudes
to pick up a package
that you don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Like, initially, he thought this was the arrangement. Like, the baby's on the doorstep. We don't know why, but there are two men coming. There are people coming to pick up
But
this
it's
baby
a
later. So it was like a temporary
baby.
situation to begin with for him.
He
And he
seems
does-
suspicious, though.
He was, and he was later
As
on.
he should have.
No,
been.
I think when he's handing them the baby, he's like, should do you want my number? Maybe you should give me your number in case you need some advice. Like, he seems like as the exchange continues, he starts to get more and more uncomfortable.
Right.
See, I didn't read that as suspicion as much as concern for the baby. Like, he started at this
Exactly.
point, he started caring for the baby, and these guys looked like they didn't know what to do with the baby.
I think he also
so even
was
though
like-
I'm supposed to give you this baby, I
Yeah.
want to make sure you know how to do it. You know.
And then he
He also
finds
had
the,
this
the
really
he
nice
does.
serendipitous
package.
moment right at the perfect time
He
to
finds
catch
the
those guys.
package.
He
Yeah.
finds the package.
Yeah, it takes them like 1,000 years to get down there because there's like a whole conversation between him and Michael. That he finds the package, and they're still like just
They're on the elevator.
Yeah,
just
they
moving
haven't
real,
even
real
gotten
slow.
off the elevator yet.
That is a slow
Well, and then he
elevator.
runs down the stairs.
It
Right,
looks like he
so
also
he
has a lot of
runs-
sex.
with
well-
also a
tiny
great
shorts.
workout.
So he
Yeah, it
finds
is.
the package. He has an exchange with Michael, who's apparently too dumb to have already made this connection himself.
Oh my God, Michael.
Because he's like, "What is this?" And Michael's like, "It's a package." And he's like, "When did this package arrive?" And he's like, Sunday, the same day as the baby." And Peter's like, "Fuck!" So like he runs downstairs to stop those guys because this is the package that they were supposed to get. And Michael's like yelling at them ineffectually through the window, trying to get them to stop.
So can I suggest that the Michael is not the sensitive one, but the dumb one? Because he does a lot of dumb things in this movie, and he,
He
doesn't
does,
seem
but I think he's meant
sensitive.
to be the sensitive.
But he doesn't even
artist.
seem sensitive. He
He
just
doesn't
say
act sensitive, but he keeps saying how sensitive.
yes, but that
he
doesn't
is.
mean he's sensitive. It just means that
I
he says he's
just
sensitive.
I think that's how they wrote him.
well,
I
they
think
were
it's
not
pretty
how he
clear
was
that, like,
played.
Tom
Dumb.
Selleck was supposed to be kind of like the star between the three of them.
Yeah.
So they gave him that role.
On the way
Yeah.
down the stairs, he trips and knocks over the package, and there's a bunch of tiny baggies of heroin in it. So this at this
Tiny,
point,
yeah.
this is the
Prepackaged.
first time we've seen that it's actually drugs, even though I think we've all suspected.
That was a thoughtful drug kingpin to
Bag them
already
all up.
bag it up,
Bagged
for him
and sealed.
Like, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How nice.
I know, right? All right. So a cop rolls up on them.
Well, it doesn't have your
Not
roll.
rolls up.
He trots
up on a horse.
On a horse.
Because, you know.
Because that's how all police chase scenes start. Is
I would love a police
mounted
horse chase. That would be awesome.
The cops roll up. This again. Okay. So this sort of begins our first, what I would like to call our first interaction between cops and Just Another Day with the White Guys. Like, you know, like the distance.
How did the cop just not yoke them up right then?
First
and
of
there?
all,
Right?
those two guys speed away, and the
Well-
cop, instead of chasing them, is like, "Hey, you, show some ID."
And he's like, I don't
would
have
like
it.
to
Do you want to
point
come
out
up to
that-
my apartment? And he's like, yeah, sure, white guy. Let's go
Tom
up to your
Selleck was so
apartment.
non-compliant with this police officer.
Oh, I know.
Who's just like, I'm not showing you anything. I
Yeah.
just don't even understand
And he like
that.
used
That's not
the
even a
baby
part
as
of
an
my world.
excuse, and I was like, "That's not a real."
He's
thing.
like, I'm not going anywhere. I have a baby.
He's like,
Yeah.
I'm an architect and I have a baby.
and he's like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, let me tell you what I'm going to do.
Right.
I'm going to go back up to my apartment. You can come with me if you want, and I'll show you some ID, but I'm not doing what you tell me to do.
Right.
Yeah, and so he does.
That's pretty
yeah,
bold.
and he invites the
So
police
that
officer
happens.
up to his apartment where he has drugs in his pocket.
Which they make this far too complicated. Like,
Yeah,
Just,
you know,
Just
he
way
didn't
too
bring a
hard.
drug sniffing dog with him. You can just
It's
stick the
just
drugs
him.
in the closet.
like in the
Yeah.
mattress.
you
Just
don't have
stick
to
it in
get
a
out. Okay,
pillowcase.
so
you
let's
could
back
have
up.
kept it in your pocket for all they care.
Well, no,
at
I
this
think it's
point.
his
Like,
in his pocket is his ID. So
It's
if he
in
reached
his pocket. He gives it to Michael and says, hide it. And instead of hiding it under a
he
pillow,
puts it in with the baby.
he takes
Yeah,
an
in the
X-Acto
diaper.
knife and cuts open
open
a
the
diaper.
That's
Puts drugs in the diaper and then puts the diaper full of heroin
on the baby.
on the baby.
That was intricate
Which-
and
What
unnecessary.
the fuck?
One, I'm worried for the baby,
Right?
being that close to
I
a
mean,
bunch
what
of heroin
happens if
right
that
near the
baby
butthole.
pees on
But
that head?
Also,
we
I'm
see,
worried about them when the baby shits on the heroin,
the
and
heroin
they
is
can't sell
pre-packaged.
but we
package.
see a few scenes
Like in
later
little
why
baggies.
this is the best place for them to put the heroin. We will see a few scenes later.
Right, but not like, don't put the diaper on the baby. Like, if you need to put the diaper back in the diaper, like, why
Yeah.
not just put it back in the diaper box? Like, the cop's not going to be looking through your diaper box.
I
or
think
under
this-
Well,
some poopy diapers. in
Well,
the-
that's
in the
what they
diaper
do
bowl.
later, but
Yeah,
don't put
like,
the diaper full of heroin on the baby. Like, now I
Well-
can't even pay attention to the movie anymore because I'm just like, somebody take
Yeah.
the diaper full of drugs
There's
off
like
the baby.
thousands of dollars of heroin on that. I was more worried about just like, what if that heroin gets ruined?
I mean, the economy
That was your main
is
concern?
going to come
I
to
was
a
just like,
standstill.
she's gonna
But
pee on
when
that.
What about the
but
heroin?
when the drug dealers come and ransack the apartment, which we'll see a few scenes later, they search through all the stuff. The
Except
one thing they don't
for-
search is the baby.
I will say that I thought this film was progressive in a lot of ways, but
Mm-hmm.
not.
Racially, no.
Well, even racially, like there were black people at the parties. There
Were there?
were.
There was like
Well,
one. There was like that
there was
one
also
guy.
one guy who was serving. He was like a black guy in a white tuxedo who was serving at the party. That was a thing.
Yeah.
But this was still before you're gonna see like any black leading men. The three
Yeah.
main characters.
You know, it's
like all
funny.
the main characters are all white.
Oh,
people,
yes.
You know.
And we can count the number of black people that were in this movie. You can't count that the white people. Like it's
Exactly.
impossible to count.
It's kind of going with the narrative that like white is the default, and
Oh, yeah, for
you can
sure.
have lots of secondary black characters. That's fine, but they're always going to be secondary characters, which
You know, it was funny when I was watching this. I was like, if this movie were 3 black male actors, who would be those actors in those roles? I was kind of like running through my
Back in that day or
Rolodex.
now?
Back in that day, so I was like,
Eddie
wow,
Murphy.
okay, there's Eddie Murphy. There's
You
like
could-
Gregory Hines.
Gregory Hines, absolutely, maybe Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor, or like who else was I thinking about? Robert Townsend.
Yeah.
And I was like, who would be those guys? You know? Anyway,
Yeah.
after the cop leaves, they hide the drugs in the diaper pail. So they actually hide the drugs in the diaper pail under some dirty diapers before they leave the baby with Miss Hathaway. So they realize at this point nobody's coming for this baby. They still have meetings to go to, and Miss Hathaway happens to show up, and they decide to leave her with the baby.
Yeah, Miss Hathaway just lets herself into the apartment again. Still don't know what her relationship to
Don't
them
know
is.
who she is, but
But
she's
she just
here.
walked in and was like, "Hey guys."
And she's good with babies. Here, Miss Hathaway.
Yeah,
take
Right.
the baby.
And you're like,
Yeah,
"Here,
please
you've
watch
always
this
wanted
baby."
one."
Have this one.
The rando cops are tailing Michael and Peter, and the bad guys, the drug dealer guys, are waiting. Or they're like outside the complex, like the building or whatever, waiting for them to leave. And then we kind of like jump in time to Peter coming back from his meeting, right? And he's stopping at the newsstand to buy some magazines from Colin Quinn. On the way home, he knows that he's being followed. He seems stressed out by this. I mean, the guy following him is not
An amateur.
not subtle about it at all.
Yeah.
And then Peter gets home and the house has been
Ransacked.
torn the fuck apart. Like
And Miss Hathaway is
cushions.
tied up.
Miss Hathaway is tied. I hope they're tipping her extra.
I swear,
I hope
they owe
so.
that woman so much.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, we don't see her again after this
know.
scene.
Well, you do
She's
for
probably
a little
still
bit.
tied up at the foot of his bed because they never untied her. He
They-
was just
they-
like, "Oh, hey, Miss Hathaway, I see
Right,
you're
he does
tied up.
not-
I'm gonna continue."
Well, he's
searching."
concerned about the
Totally
baby.
leaves her there.
Yeah.
And goes like searching for the baby. And like they have this whole nother scene where they're like talking to the baby. Meanwhile, this woman is still tied up at the foot of his
She's
bed.
like,
Right.
excuse me.
She eventually comes around like, hey guys, excuse me,
can
please
you untie me?
come
And
save
also,
me.
I'm gonna
If
call the
I-
cops now.
If
Right?
I have a giant apartment like that, though, I think the first thing I see a tied up adult. I'm gonna untie that adult and be like, "Hey,
You
where
can
is
help
my
me
baby?"
find the baby.
He's running through the house screaming the babies, and he's like, "Mary, Mary, where's Mary?" And finally, he finds the baby, like
The baby's
in a
unscathed.
closet.
Yeah.
Which was really
And
strange.
then they find
Yeah.
a note that says, "Next time we'll take the baby."
Yes. So Peter is noticeably upset. Like he is
Yeah.
like, this is like the moment where we're meant to see that he
just made
really
him hotter.
cares about this
Yeah,
baby.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So after this, we've got Peter reading the sports magazine to the baby,
It's about
which
so
boxing.
cute.
so I'm so hot for Tom Selleck right now in this scene. Like I just
my
want to lay in
God.
his lap while he reads me a sports
I
magazine.
know. Oh,
And
gotta
he's
stop
really
talking
cute
about
when
it,
he talks about the
guys.
when he talks in that baby voice. He's like, "It's
Yeah.
not about what the story is. It's the tone." It's like it's a baby, and it's just like so cute.
I know.
Well,
You
okay,
should
and
definitely
I
tell Chris that, you know,
I
you
mean,
gotta grow
I
a
don't even-
mustache, Chris. Grow out your chest
Just
hair.
grow it out.
And then just read sports magazines.
Just read them to me
In a-
and
in a
let me
childlike
lay in
voice.
your lap
And
while
we
you
will
read them
have-
to me.
We will have child number
I don't
4.
and please, if we're gonna role play, he also should be wearing the flash dance sweatshirt and the sweatpants shorts that Tom
Oh my
Selleck is wearing in this
God.
scene.
Yeah.
Tucked into the sweatpants.
Of
shorts.
course, like
he's sensitive and it's sexy.
It is, and he puts the bassinet in his bed and like
Yeah.
puts his hand,
Holds the baby's hand.
he spoons the
He's
bassinet.
spooning the bassinet.
holds the
It's
baby's hand to
so
sleep.
Adorable. Jack re-enters the home
He sneaks in.
in the creepiest way possible.
Who sneaks into their own home?
Right.
It
Like,
was
it's-
late at night. Maybe he was trying not to wake them up.
But the type
No,
of
he was
people that these
sneaking.
guys are, like, it's not like there's a baby in the house.
doesn't
for you
expect
creep
there to be a
around,
baby,
You know?
yeah.
Like, why is he being so quiet? Like, just walk into your home.
Because
You're with
both the
adults.
guys are
He's
asleep
also
and-
not just
Yeah.
he's not just creeping, and he is he looks like he's not supposed to
Well,
to
I'm
be
gonna give
there.
him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut him a little slack. The house is still a mess,
Yeah,
so I'm
and he
wondering
does
if
trip
maybe
over
he
crap.
trips over something that's not supposed to be where it is.
Yeah.
Peter is on high alert, and he goes in there and just
I love how he grabs a basketball. Like that's my weapon of choice.
and he just like
I'm gonna find something
wings
to bounce
it
off you.
at Jack's head,
Yeah.
We find out that Jack's part has been cut. That's why he's home so soon.
and they're all kind of
Poor Jack.
well.
That
And then
sucks.
he's like, "What's going on?" And there's a lot of yelling. So they're like,
Hilarious
"This is
bears.
your baby, and you're gonna." And they just leave him with the baby. They're like, "Enjoy."
Yeah, you're gonna figure this shit out like we did.
They don't give
Right.
him any advice. They
No.
want him to figure it out
I did
himself.
love the scene of them
It was
walking
very funny.
away in their bathrobes with their arms behind their beds like, "Good night, Jack."
And he's like, "What do I do with it?" And they're like, "Good night." And they're like, but they don't go to bed. They're like playing pool. So they're like
Yeah.
nearby
They're
in
like,
case
"Let
there's an
him
emergency.
suffer."
It's too far.
But they're enjoying his suffering.
I can't say I would do anything differently.
No,
I
I
don't
would have
blame
been
you.
like, as much as we struggled these last 5 days with it, and the baby and the drug dealers,
It's
and
not
all
even
this,
their baby.
you
Like this is
are
all
going to
Jack's fault.
suffer.
Oh, I would not because I
It's like,
wouldn't.
yeah.
I wouldn't want the the baby to suffer or get hurt if he did
baby's not
something wrong.
suffering.
I
They're
think
right
the baby's the baby seems okay. I mean the baby is crying, but I think
would
they're
step in before
nearby.
the baby got like, if making
Yeah.
sure they wouldn't let it go too far. But
Yeah, I mean they're
at the
playing
same
pool.
point, they're like, you're gonna.
They're basically
live through
like,
this we did.
But I'm
figure
also
it
a,
out for yourself, dickhead.
I'm also
is what Peter says.
I'm a pushover, so I would totally help them out. I can't
Well,
do that.
If a baby ever shows up on my doorstep, I know who to call. Thank you, Sarah.
Fuck you.
There's like, and I would immediately call Nicole.
I'd be like, yeah, I
Nicole
guess
would
we
be
can
like-
take in one more. So they leave him with Jack, and Jack spends the night with the baby. And then the next morning, out of desperation, he calls his mother.
And this is the other kick butt
Yeah.
lady in this
Also,
His
movie.
mom
the
is a
mom.
fucking boss.
She is a badass.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, oh, I love this baby. That's so cute. That's great. I'm so glad I have a granddaughter. I'm so excited.
But I'm not gonna
You're
do
taking
jack
care of this
squat
baby.
for you.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn. She has your eyes. She looks just like
You're
you.
just a natural mom.
Yeah,
and
you're-
she's wearing these gloves, which is a little weird. She's like
Yeah.
wearing gloves the whole time.
I remember her in grayscale for some reason. Like she's just like a gray human, like in a black and white movie in my
Oh my god!
mind.
I thought you meant she literally had grayscale,
No,
like
I
you were
was
talking
thinking
about Game of Thrones. I was like,
No.
I was like, is that why she's wearing the gloves?
Like,
That's why she's wearing the gloves, you guys. She's really
That's
from the
what
Game of
infect
Thrones
the baby.
universe.
That's totally
I don't
makes
understand
sense.
what you're talking
Grayscale.
about.
Oh my god!
No, but like I
of
picture
course.
her
Sad.
in
She's
like
gonna go mad really soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Means
was like
great.
a lot of people don't get to experience something this amazing in their life, and I'm going to do the best thing for you. I'm going to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
gonna-
like, you're
I'm
gonna take
gonna-
care of this baby. I'm not going to. And he's like, but mom, I'm a screw up. And she's like, you used to be a screw up,
But you
now
are.
you're a dad.
yeah.
I have to. That was such an amazing statement. Like I have so many friends. Like even in all honesty, my brother, he had some times where it was just like life was hard and people go through things.
Yeah.
But the moment you become a father, there's like this level of responsibility where like you just step the fuck
You
up.
just
my
rise to the
brother is
challenge.
an amazing father.
Yeah.
And you just rise to the challenge. It's kind of really encouraging. Like it's pretty awesome to see that.
I would watch a whole movie about Jack's mom
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would too.
and Miss Hathaway. Like they need to have their own spinoff.
Oh my God. What if they're like a lesbian couple? Like really, that's the Mr. Hathaway who
my
can't have children and has a
God,
low
yes.
sperm count.
Right.
Like after
Like,
after
very
Jack's
Actually,
father
Jack's mom
passes
is Jack's
away.
mom. They're
Well,
both living
because
downstairs.
she
There's
says that
lesbian
Jack's
couplehood.
father is not alive anymore. So maybe she has like a second she has like a sexual awakening
Yeah.
in her later
Wow.
years.
This is a really interesting hypothetical, guys.
So after this scene, Peter and Michael leave to go on a date. So they're finally leaving the house and they're
Double date.
leaving. They're going to see a play with their
Lady friends.
Ladies.
and they leave Jack with the baby. So, but they're basically once they get there, they're just
They're too
two nervous
concerned.
dads. They
Yeah.
can't stop thinking about the baby. They're not supposed to talk about the baby, but they can't stop worrying about whether or not Jack is going to be able to handle this baby by himself.
I would be too, though,
Yeah, he's kind of a screw up.
knowing Jack.
But in this scene where he's alone with the baby when they're on the date, he's
Seems like
doing
he's got
pretty
it
well.
under
Like
control.
he's
Yeah.
he serves her the bottle.
right.
and,
He's
like,
acting like a maitre d.
It's so
and
cute, and then he's
Yeah.
seeing her in the shower, and he's like holding her and singing "My Girl." It was so adorable.
Actually, he's doing that exactly during intermission when Peter calls him to check on Mary, and he doesn't pick up
Right.
the phone
Right.
because
he's
in the shower.
Yeah. Peter and Michael go home because they're very nervous about
Which
Jack.
is just so cute.
It's adorable.
so cute.
Very
like,
cute.
They're such good friends.
And they show up, and they're all freaked out.
Well,
Why
they're
did you
all a
answer the
family
phone?
at this point.
And
They're
Jack's
kind
like,
of
I was in
becoming
the
a family.
shower, and then the next
scene is a phone
the-
being
the-
installed in the shower.
in the shower.
Oh, that was
It
great.
So
Never again.
adorable.
Cut to
We will always be
Yeah.
able
guy
to
installing
contact you.
shower phone. Yes. At this point in the movie, these guys are getting pretty good at this. Like it only took them a couple weeks to become total nurturers. Like they've
Yeah.
blossomed.
They took to fatherhood really quickly.
Yes. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So then the drug dealers leave a threatening.
It's a
Clipping.
newspaper
Right.
paper headline that says commercial director hospitalized after mugging, and then it says
Don't let this happen to you.
yeah. So
Right.
yeah, they
This
They set up this
was the
madcap
most-
plan.
This was just as elaborate and unnecessary as taking an X-Acto knife to the diaper and putting heroin in it in the
Yes.
first place. Like He put on a dress.
Jack
and was
dresses
having
in
the-
He
drag.
put on fingernails, guys. Like,
he was
put on
full makeup.
fingernails.
He looked
Laura and
pretty
I were
good.
talking. I was like, if this were me, I would have been like, we're going to leave the heroin on a table in our apartment. You seem to have no problem breaking into our apartment. You've done this twice. We're going to leave. Come and get your shit.
And then
Don't let
like
it be
send
there
the
when we
cops
come
over there
back.
because I think part of the plan was to trap them, right?
Well, the thing
Yeah.
is, so the cops were trying to like not be busted by the police at the same time, like
Right.
having heroin, you know.
Because if
trying
they
to
have heroin in their
collaborate with them.
apartment and have guys come get it, like doesn't that implicate them?
Yeah.
I mean,
But
not
doesn't
to
your
mention.
construction site also implicate
Well,
you?
not to mention like the professional ramifications
Not
of
necessarily.
setting up a drug bust at your workplace.
Once those people have the heroin on them, like who's to say that they didn't bring it in your apartment? Like who's to say that you're
I mean, I
liable at
agree
that
that
point,
this
you know?
this plan is unnecessarily complicated. I would also say that they probably should have gotten a babysitter for this because they like bring the baby on the drug bus with them, and I'm
That was a
like,
great
Yes.
idea.
this
Yeah.
Mrs. Hathaway was busy.
That's what I
tonight?
wrote down too.
Or-
I don't think
Why
Mrs.
the fuck
Hathaway
did
wants
they
to
bring
talk
the
to them ever
baby?
again.
I don't know. If I were Miss Hathaway, I'd be like, I'm never babysitting for you again. It leads to me being tied up.
Right?
Yeah.
Like she's probably in therapy, right?
Yeah.
So when they get to the construction site, Jack finds a payphone or a phone booth or something and calls the cops to
yeah.
come and meet them. 'Cause they have
And I feel like this should have been worked out in advance
They
with the
could have
cops.
collaborated with the
called
cops earlier on so they didn't have to
sooner.
like ditch them.
Well,
Right.
I think they just wanted that one detective guy.
Yeah,
They didn't
I
want
guess they didn't want the
guys
lackeys.
following them.
Michael hides in an air duct with a
fake
with
air
the
duct,
giant
right?
air duct.
Yeah,
it's not even
fake.
attached to the
A
floor.
Where did they get
giant
that
with the
from?
giant 80s camcorder that we saw in the first movie, so that's where that
Yeah.
comes into play. And he's taping them, and Peter's like, "We had nothing to do with this, right?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, no, you guys had nothing to do with
You're
it. I mean, you're
completely
just total
innocent."
amateurs
Yeah.
and so innocent." So they're like taping
Yeah.
them
Like, yeah, this vindicates
to
us.
get proof that they were not involved.
Until Michael
and then
decides
the
he
duct
wants
falls.
Yeah, then Michael falls over.
I
God
lost my
damn you,
balance.
Michael.
Which is
to
like,
move. All
what
you
the
had to do
fuck?
was stand up.
You had one job.
You had one job, Michael. One job. Stand up, push record. Oh
You
man.
guys, what America would be without,
Without
guns?
right?
I know. God, you could
I
just
mean-
like get
Drug
into a
dealers would just be like angry and
you could get into
Elevator,
a
like, shaking
disagreement
their
with your
fist.
drug dealer and no one would die.
You
know.
could fight somebody and not have to like die.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
And then the cops come, and the drug dealers are like, "Oh, what?
I know. Wah, wah. So again, I would like to say
Lovely
the
being a
cops
white
show
guy."
up. Right. The cops show up and they're like, "Here's a tape of the drug dealers saying we weren't involved." And there's the drug dealers right there. Peace. We're leaving.
And the cops
And
are
it's
like,
just
"Okay."
like just another day in the life of a white guy.
I just don't understand not everyone being arrested and then being like, we're gonna figure this out with all of you at the station
Right.
now.
They're just like,
yeah.
"Great. Can I hold the baby one more time before you
Yeah.
go?"
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they're mad at the cops that they called. They're like, no, you can't hold the baby. Like, what is that?
Like what? What is that? You just handed them some drug dealers, but you won't hand them a baby?
Nice work, white guys.
Yeah.
I think
All in
is
days
it
work.
because I mean I know it's because they're white, but it's also like a comedy too. So
And yeah, and
Ask yourself
hesitant
if
to
this
say,
was a movie where Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and Gregory Hines were the dads, would
it have gone the same way?
detective just like sent them merrily on their way?
I think
I'm
the
just
real
wondering.
problem is that
Just
movie
asking.
wouldn't have even gotten made.
agreed. But I don't think. Yeah, we would never see that movie.
It's too bad. It probably would have been pretty good.
I think it'd been
Yeah.
really
Can
fun.
you
would've been
imagine
real
like
good.
Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy trying to change a diaper on a baby?
Oh my god.
That would have been
That would
pretty
have been
good.
gold.
That would have been
have
comedy gold. So some time passes.
The flock of women are surrounding the baby.
Right.
They're in
Some
the
time
park.
passes. Jack now apparently has a nursery in his room because
Yeah.
I know it's adorable. There's like Donald Duck on the wall and he's having trouble getting the baby to sleep and he calls on the bro team.
And they all come out of their
This is
pronging
the
sesh.
only moment from the
Pronging
movie that I like
sesh.
remember from
Me
20
This
too.
years
is-
ago.
It's the only one that I actually like. I remembered this.
Definitely
like, other
a
ones I was
classic
like, oh, I
scene.
remember that happening as it was happening, but this is the scene.
Yeah,
But
this
yeah,
was-
they gather around the crib and they sing "Good Night, Sweetheart."
night, sweetheart.
Well,
It's time to go. So they sing the baby to sleep and it's fucking adorable.
And it's so cute, and Rebecca's like geeking out in the other room.
yeah,
thinking
it
it's
seems
so
like this
adorable.
relationship that Peter has with the baby has sort of, it seems like it's kind of repairing his relationship with Rebecca. I like that it's really subtle. Like there's never a conversation about it. I don't know if there are deleted scenes that they cut out of the movie.
Yeah.
But it seems like Rebecca and Peter have gotten closer as he has become more.
Yeah, when he comes back in the
committed to this
room,
baby.
she teases him about the song.
I think it changes how his relationship with Mary. Like I said, I think it
Definitely.
changes the way he relates
Yeah.
to women, period, and it opens him up for more with her.
And then he
Yeah,
smacks
definitely.
her in the head with a pillow a few times.
Sarah was very disturbed by that.
who
I was
doesn't
like, it's
like that?
playful. Who doesn't like a little smothering? So
With his mustache.
everything's going great. Also, I want to say, like, all three of them make a great dad team. Like, they are really crushing it right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And then I was also wondering, like, would this story work if the baby were a boy?
Yeah.
Would it?
I don't know
I
if
think
it would
so.
because there's this, the whole idea of like
Daddy's
daddy's little
girl.
girl. You know, your heart melts for a daughter in ways, and not to say that it doesn't for a son, because my brother's heart completely melted for Jackson. So did mine. But I don't know. I think there is something a little different. You feel a little bit more protective over a female.
My dad doesn't
I don't know.
feel that way.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is in this movie where you've got three men who love each other but are not will not commit to women, does the baby have to be a girl to make this story work? I'm just
I think so.
I think
putting that out there.
If that's the narrative you're going for,
I mean, that
is
seems
like
to be the narrative that the movie is going
They can't
for.
commit to any woman besides this baby woman.
Yeah, I think that's kind of.
I think
Then
that's what
yes, it's necessary. But if the story overall is three men who overcome their inability to care for someone in order to care for this genderless baby, then yes.
But they don't have an inability care for. They
Yeah,
care
they
about
care
each
for each
other.
They care about
Very
each other.
much.
So it's a different story. It's the difference between caring for a woman and caring for another person. And I think that it is important to this story that it is a woman. I think it would have changed it if it was a
I
male
think so.
baby. That
I think
And then
that's,
just-
a
just
really
to-
important point. Like to come back to like
Yeah.
what really both you, Hillary, and Nicole just said. Like there is a certain level of empathy when you have a daughter for women that you may not have had before because you didn't really have to. You didn't know. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're concerned a little bit more about women's issues because of your concern for your daughter.
Absolutely,
You know?
100%.
So to answer your question, I think the story would have been very different in retrospect now that if it were a son, because their ability to relate to women changed because of Mary.
Correct. And then Sylvia returns.
that bitch.
Do you?
Hold
Would you?
on.
Would you? Did you have some things to
I
say
don't-
about Sylvia?
I have a lot of issues with
Please,
Sylvia.
please go.
A
Go for
woman
it.
who just leaves her baby
Yeah.
on a doorstep
Yep.
of a man that she slept with months and months
A year and a half
months
ago.
and months ago.
A year and a half ago.
That she just leaves this baby that she's never mentioned to the man and just leaves him on the porch with a note. Doesn't ring the bell. Doesn't call first.
Doesn't make
like,
sure it's the right house.
I have a lot of issues
Well, I
with
think
it.
it's pretty clear it's the right house because there's like
Oh, you're right.
a
There is a
mural
picture of
of
him
them
there. That's a
outside.
good
out
point.
front.
That's
yeah,
true.
That's true.
Good point, Brian.
But I think this raises the
point.
issue of like moms abandoning their kids is seen as worse as dads abandoning
Yeah, because
their
he
kids.
Well,
can just give the baby back, and it's.
I
not
mean,
a
but this
big deal.
movie is not about dads abandoning their
That's
kids.
true. It's
You
not.
know, it's about a mom who leaves.
I was
her
angry
baby.
at her, too.
I
Oh,
am
yeah,
not
I was
pleased
angry at
with
her, too.
Like,
Initially, I was, but Laura actually said something that made me think more about it, and it made her a little bit. It redeemed her a little bit in my eyes, just a little bit. She still left her baby on a doorstep and ran away.
Yeah.
But it took 3 men and they're barely handling raising this child.
Yeah,
And she's a single woman on her own, still trying to juggle a career and. She was
And
overwhelmed.
women
But that's
have
not how
women
you do it.
experience
It's not- yeah, it's
postpartum
not okay.
depression.
But the issue that I have with it mostly is that she comes back to take the baby away to go home to her parents and have her parents raise the kid while she continues to audition in London. And that's the issue that I have with it is if that was the option, why
didn't
leave
you
the
do
baby
that
on
in
the
the first
on the
place?
doorstep in the first
Well,
place?
maybe she hadn't
Like,
told them
why?
about the baby. I mean, I don't know. I don't know
But
what
she
her
didn't tell
backstory
Jack
is.
about the baby either.
I know.
Like,
I don't know what
it
her
was harder to
backstory is. They
tell.
didn't bother to give her a backstory.
It's
I
very
know.
Is
contrived.
the problem.
I know. I just
Here's what
it's not-
bothers me is that she shows up to pick up that baby like she left that baby with a babysitter. Like she's like,
Right.
I'm here.
Give
Oh,
it back to
look.
me. I'm leaving for London.
The line that bothered me the most is when she picks up the baby and she says, I didn't realize how much I would miss her. And I'm like, are you fucking serious right now? But I don't know who to be mad at. I don't know how to be mad at her. I'm sure there are people that exist like her. Should I be mad at the writers for writing a person like this? I don't know. Like,
She also says,
it
I
just all
shouldn't-
seems very.
I shouldn't have left her the way I did. I hope it didn't cause too much
I know it's all very
You
like
put a
it's
baby
like
on my doorstep
it's
and
like
you're saying
you
you
dropped
don't
off
cause
your
trouble.
Shih Tzu with a dog walker. Like
Honestly,
it's so casual. She just shows up. Peter looks heartbroken the whole time.
Yeah.
That he's like
He
like
is.
that
He
scene.
feels powerless, I
We didn't
think,
really
at
talk too
this
much about it, but the scene, like he opens the door, and Sylvia is like, I'm Sylvia. I'm here to
And
get
he's, like,
married.
immediately
And like
crushed.
this scene, I thought was actually very good. Like I'm very angry at Sylvia, but Tom Selleck,
But I
like
know my
his
place in this situation.
it was
like,
very like the whole scene I thought was played out very well, where he's just like, she's like, can I see her? And he's like, yeah, of course. And you know, like what he wants to say is like, no,
Yeah.
you can't. But he's like
It's not
being
his
polite.
place, yeah.
And like he goes to Michael's room and he says, Michael, you have to get up. Mary's leaving.
Yeah. Like they're so passive about
Yeah, well, I
all
mean,
this
they-
stuff.
I think there's a hesitancy to like take a baby away from, and even though she gave her away from a mother who wants that baby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
I
can
think
see
that would have been
Like-
sort of unheard of in this time
Yeah.
period. That
But
you
there was
wouldn't just
no-
give
And
it
in
back
all
to the
honesty,
mom.
Like even today, like
argument.
the courts are always going to side with the mother in that situation.
A lot
Generally,
of
unless
times,
there's
yeah.
something like
I
really
think
wrong,
that
but
leaving her on the doorstep would have given them a little pause.
agreed.
Then again, though,
Also,
maybe
those guys have a lot of money. And I
Yeah.
did not get the impression
Yeah.
that she did. Like she said she lives in a one-room flat.
Yeah, like I would want
Those
them
guys
to
were rich, so
argue with her and say how they felt and say like the issues they had instead of just going like, oh, okay, here's
that's
the
the
baby.
thing, it's just
Maybe
like
Sylvia just has the best babysitting model ever. She just leaves babies on people's penthouse doorsteps and is like, by
You're rich,
the way,
take care of my baby."
this is your baby. I'll be back to get it eventually.
like
And
she
then
had
comes
like
back
maybe
and is
she
like,
maybe she had a
"There's
film
my
shoot.
baby."
The long
yeah,
con
she just
for,
like
like,
had
a
to be
couple
gone
months.
for like a week and like
Like,
came
I just had
back.
this baby and I booked
It's
this role.
yours.
What do I
Yeah,
do?
like
Oh,
maybe
man.
maybe if I have a baby, I'll start doing that. Just like look on the
Please don't do
mailbox,
that.
find
Yeah,
a first
please
name,
don't.
be like, "Hey, Brian, this is your baby."
And Brian's gonna be like,
Watch it.
Hillary, we already talked about this during the podcast. I know what
I
you're
know
up
it's
to.
not my Hillary.
It's gonna be like,
if you run
"Hillary,
into that
this baby is
situation,
very
I will
white."
watch your baby for you, and you don't have to trick me into it. Okay,
All right, fine, Brian.
it's still your baby though. Like
maybe.
you're gonna have to come back and get it at some point.
Oh god.
Yes.
And then Jack like puts a pillow in his sweater and imagines
Pretends to
himself
be
being pregnant.
Which
Pete,
that was the
Peter,
one scene that I was
That's
like,
okay.
okay. All
Peter
right.
pours out the milk.
So
Oh,
sad.
man.
It was
Like,
like
we're not
so
gonna need this
heartbreaking. I
anymore.
know. And like Jack is like, I don't know, guys. Something I don't feel like I feel something feels weird.
I
And
have
they're
an-
like,
I have an
oh, what
ache
is it?
right
And I feel
here.
like both of them are just like, yeah, keep going, keep going.
love how they, like-
say what I'm thinking. Let's
I
go
love
get this
how
baby.
they just like let him come to it himself though.
yeah,
Like
'cause
they
I
know
feel like,
him.
in all
If
honesty,
they
I feel like
press,
you have to. you
yeah,
know?
if they push it, maybe it's
he's
not
like,
gonna.
If I were in that
I miss
situation, I would
Mary.
probably do the same thing. Be like, yeah, I miss her, but it's up to you whether we go get her or not.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they do.
Then they hop in a
Yeah.
cab, and this is where the cab driver's like, "Oh, the first time your baby says daddy, your heart just melts, and you just
And all of them are
Yeah.
like,
All of them are
yes,
yeah."
I want that.
I just like I love that there's like four men in this car talking about like their heart melting, and I'm just like, oh, I love it.
I actually love I think this movie looks upon fatherhood very favorably, and I
agree.
Yeah.
like that. Like it takes it as a serious bond, and I think
Yeah.
that's
This is
wonderful.
not
I think
Mr.
it-
Mom.
It's
This is
not,
like-
no.
This is very different.
Yeah. I love a good running through an airport montage. Or
Back
run,
when
run through an
security
airport
was not a
scene.
big deal.
No good
Good.
love stories.
Can't-
Like good without
Can't do it now. They would get stopped.
Oh my God,
at
great
the gate.
sketch
They got
sketch
through
idea.
security so quick.
I know.
Well, there is no security.
There was
they
no
didn't have to
security.
take
They were
their
just like,
shoes
take the metal
off.
out of your pockets, and he was like, okay.
So he goes through with metal in his pockets and it goes off. They're like, oh no, you need to put that in here. And
No
he's like,
pat
"Oh,
downs.
Okay, cool. And
No
then goes
anal
right through.
cavity searches.
Right? No.
No, nothing. So they miss the plane and they head back to the house, and Sylvia's there. She's crying
Crying on the doorstep.
crying at the doorstep with the baby. She says she could not leave. I do feel like this is the moment where Sylvia becomes human for me, though, because maybe you're
Not
shaking
for
your head,
Hillary.
Hillary, and I'll tell you why. Because the meltdown she has about being alone and not getting any sleep and all of her money going to sitters, all of that is real. Like, that is fucking
It
real. And
humanized her
she's
to me.
alone, and maybe she put herself in the position where she's alone. But look, I'm not saying it's right to leave your baby on a doorstep at all. But I am saying that when you are, but I am saying that I'm a person who has had babies and been sleep deprived and woken up for like the 7th month in a row with having only had 2 or 3 hours of sleep. And you start having thoughts where you're just like, I see now why people abandon their kids. Like, I love my children and I would never abandon them. But in the middle at 3 o'clock in the morning, when all you want is like, you're just like, I just want 4 hours.
You just wanna go
I just
away
want 4
and-
hours of
and
sleep.
just sleep. Yeah.
Like, somebody please take this child away from me for just like 4 hours. Like, I can understand how a person can get desperate and feel alone. And I get that.
And I agree with you, but also you're an adult human with a child. You don't leave a child on a doorstep. You call the father of that baby and say, I need some fucking help. I'm tired. All my money is going to babysitters. You're obviously doing well. They're about to fly you to Turkey to go film some movie. You've got money. You're living in this penthouse apartment. Like, fucking help me, dude.
I mean,
Like,
I'm not
that's
saying
what
she
I
made a
would
good
say.
decision.
But see, that's why I dislike her, is because like she put that child's welfare in danger
Yeah.
by leaving it on a
Totally.
doorstep. What if all three of them had decided to fly to Turkey with Jack for his film shoot, and she had just left a baby on a doorstep
Obviously,
for
Miss
10
Hathaway would have
days?
picked up that baby the way she picks
Well,
up.
Miss
her
Hathaway would have gone away with that baby, and then she would have shown up
And
on
that would have been a movie that I would have
Friday and been
watched.
like, "Hey, Jack, where's my baby?" And he would have been like, "What?"
The
baby?
point
We've
is
been
that
to
Nicole,
Turkey."
you can feel
I can
that way,
sympathize
but
with her.
you would never have.
No, I would never have, but
your baby.
My
But
problem is not with her feelings or with the feeling of being overwhelmed. It's her choice that she made. That's the problem that I
Totally.
have with this character.
but
is
I'm
the
gonna
choice.
I'm gonna posit that there's a bigger picture here, and that is like Hillary's giving me this.
There's a comedy
Yeah,
to have
whatever.
that like three
Big
men have to
picture,
take care of
get
a
it.
baby.
No,
I
no, no,
get
no,
it,
no. But what this movie is about non-traditional families. This movie is
Yeah.
about
yeah, I
not
just wish it had been
expecting-
a different non-traditional family.
right.
That's my thoughts.
You
And I
just
see
have a hard
that,
time
and
forgiving
I
that
see that
character.
you, but it's also about like up till this, up to around this period in history, and we've seen this in other movies. Like, women are expected, the baby is their problem.
Yeah.
Like, it is their problem, and this movie is saying
flip that on
the
its head.
subtext of this movie is it shouldn't be her problem. It shouldn't just be her problem.
Right.
And that's what this movie is saying. And so they end up creating a non-traditional family where it's like the mother, and then because we
invite
didn't really
her
get to
in.
it, but she says, "I don't want to go to London. If I take the baby, it's going to be a mistake." And they're like, "Yes, stay here, and we'll help you." And Peter's like, "Why don't you move in with us?" And so she moves in with them, and they all live together and take care of this baby. And so this movie is like about the formation of, like, in this time period in the 1980s, we're seeing like, yeah, I know this is a silly 80s comedy, but we're also kind of seeing like, here's what a family can be. A family can be many things. A family can be three guys
guys
and
living
and a woman who are not in a sexual relationship raising a child. Incidentally, Chris and I both decided after watching this movie that we feel like it's time for us to take on, one, perhaps two more husbands.
That makes sense.
and have even more kids apparently.
Oh yeah, we were like, we could have like 20 kids if we had like 3 dudes here.
Well, if you're getting pronged every night, Nicole, with
Right?
3 different husbands.
Oh my God, I don't have to sleep with all of them, do I?
But
I don't know. You're
But I would like to
Jesus.
note that they said 3 Chris's, not 3 different husbands. It was always like 3.
This was like if there were 2 more of me.
2 more Chris's.
we would be
That's
running
true.
I
this
could
ship
only
real
clone
tight.
myself.
I don't know. I just like, my thoughts are, if this was a movie about a non-traditional family, I would have preferred that it be a non-traditional family with 3 dudes and a baby.
Right.
And that
I
the
agree.
Sylvia character was never introduced, and that she had just gone away like she had in the beginning of the movie, and they hadn't brought her in the last 15 minutes.
I think it's
So
interesting
then
that
she
Nicole.
just remains this unlikable character who just gave up her baby, and there's
But I
no
don't think-
resolution
yeah.
or
Like,
It is kind of a loose thread, I think, is what Brian's saying.
yeah.
I don't know. I would have just rather her like go away. Like, I never saw her on screen. She was a name on a piece of paper. I didn't really care.
I feel like
Like,
you'd
they
be
tried to
leaving like
reach her, she
this
wasn't
idea that she
reachable.
could come back and take the baby back at some point,
Yeah.
though.
I don't
Like-
know. Not in my mind. Like, because like to me, I 100% thought the movie was over when they were singing to her in the cradle. I thought the movie was over. Like, I even got up and I like got myself something else to drink, and I was like, all right, what are we watching next? And like then I was like, oh, this
wait,
is
there's
still
more.
going. There's a woman here. Okay, like what is this all about? And then
Yeah.
I hated it
I feel
from
like I
that
have
point
to agree with
on.
Nicole, like had it ended right there with them singing like this really nice sweet moment and everything, there is always the danger that this Sylvia character could come back and take all of that away from them.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against Sylvia. Like,
Are you sure?
Yeah, you
I
do.
just I think I just think it was a stupid ending. Like,
So you don't like
It
the
was a
writing
just-
of it?
just
I
a
don't
stupid
like the
ending.
writing. Like, if
I mean, I
Sylvia had
agree. I would have
called at
rather-
some point, or like if she had been some sort of character, if she had been in the beginning, we'd seen her like
Give her some
pronging
sort of level
Jack
of
in the
redemption in
beginning,
the
like
beginning, or
just something,
redeemable
you know,
qualities.
like.
I agree.
Or if
I
had
think
even
that
seen
instead
her,
of
like,
this-
struggling, like tired, up the stairs trying to get this baby there, and like crying as she leaves Mary and is like, oh, I'm sorry, Mary.
Well, that's a little much for a comedy, I think. But I do agree. I would
just
have
don't
rather
care
seen
about
a
her.
subplot
that involved
that involved her
Yeah.
than
I
this
agree.
stupid drug dealer plot.
That's definitely
Like
what I
it
would have
seemed like, why is
preferred.
that even in
much
there?
more
Like-
well-rounded story that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't care for the ending, but I did find the way that the 3 men like were totally like, no, you move in with us.
I know, that was
we'll raise the
adorable.
baby.
It was so
It
cute.
was
Yeah,
so
I
cute.
thought, well, I definitely thought that was adorable. Like, I think it's a cute ending. I don't know. It just like, it seems like they presented this movie to an executive, and the executive was like, no woman's gonna believe that. Bring the mom back at the end. And they were like, all right, we'll cast a mom then. And then they cast a mom who's British and is bringing her to London, and like that's how they
Well,
end
Nancy
the
Travis
movie.
isn't actually British. But
Like,
Terrible accent. Terrible.
Bad accent, I agree.
Yeah.
But can I just say I'm happy to see, well, I guess the trend has completely reversed, but there was an American actor taking away a role from a British actor instead of everything else the other way around nowadays.
Yeah. So
we got
they
one in there.
they
We got
invite
one, and
they
then,
invite
that
Sylvia
accent's terrible. We'll
to
do the opposite.
come and live with them.
Yeah, she's like, do you have room?
Peter's-
and Peter's like, I'll
I'll
build
build
you
a
a
room.
Right.
room.
Peter's
Great
going to build a
line.
room.
Peter's
They're
like, I
very
want a baby.
Like, I don't give a
excited.
damn. Just move here.
They're very excited about Mary moving in with them. They changed the mural to include Sylvia and Mary, although the baby is like fucking terrifying. Like that baby
baby is,
looks
like,
Where did all that,
terrifying.
Like
frizzy yellow
Lucifer's
hair come
child.
from?
I don't
Baby
know.
doesn't look like that or nowhere near.
And then they all
push
leave
a
pushing a stroller together.
with a bar that's
off in that
a
four-person
bar
stroller.
that is across
Yeah.
the stroller wide enough for all 4 of them to push at the same time.
If I was stuck behind them on the sidewalk, like, what assholes?
You
Total
know, the weird
assholes.
thing, like, I guess, when they did that, they were still at the top floor of that penthouse about to get on an elevator.
Maybe
I don't
retract
think that
point.
was going to fit through the elevator.
Yeah, probably not.
you know,
Logistics,
keep it low. When you get outside, maybe open it all the way up. But, you know,
continuity error.
yeah. You forgot there's an elevator you're about to get on and you're going to open it up 15 feet long. Okay, sure.
They're all gonna back in as a group.
Final thoughts? I think Hillary was kind of giving us a little bit of her final thoughts.
I
Well,
love
you know,
this-
you
I
can
love
get
this
sum it up.
movie.
Yeah.
I love it. I thought it was great. I think it's a really cute movie. I could have done without the last 20 to 30 minutes of it. Yeah, but I mean, I thought it was a great movie. I loved it. It was definitely very different than I remembered it, which was a sweet movie about 3 dudes singing to a like cradle. But
Yeah. 3 men in a cradle.
I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was very cute. I like I said before, the 3 men I immediately had disdain for, but by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, they're so cute. Yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought the drug plot was very dumb. But
Agreed.
overall, I thought it was fun.
Brian.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I think this movie surprised me. I was expecting to go into this, just playing with gender roles and thinking like, oh, it's funny, men, playing the role of the quote unquote woman,
Yeah.
all of that, which it's a little annoying to me.
Yeah, I
but
agree.
it really pleasantly surprised me. I thought it had a depth that I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah.
Agreed. Drug plot, stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Could have totally gone another way and been a much better film had we fleshed out some more of the story with the mom. Or, I mean, there's a lot of other ways they could have gone without introducing, something as silly as that drug plot that seemed kind of meaningless. In the whole
Yeah, it was
grand
one of those
scheme
weird
things.
80s things. Like,
Yeah.
they had stuff like that in 80s movies. Like, they always had to have some kind of caper, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
not what this movie is about.
Yeah, the movie's not about that, but all in all, the movie did pleasantly surprise me, and it was nice. I'm glad I got a chance to revisit it.
Yeah, definitely. I want to remake this movie with Brian and Andy Fleming and Pedro.
Oh my God.
The question is who to cast where. I mean,
I know
obviously,
exactly where I cast
Pedro
everyone.
is
I think
Michael.
okay, Brian
Yeah.
obviously
Brian
would,
is Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
Brian
duh.
would obviously be
Peter.
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 Obviously.
Duh.
Obviously would
And
be Peter.
Andy would probably be Jack.
Grow a mustache
That's
for
how
that.
I would
Andy
cast
would-
it
yeah,
too.
that's
I would
exactly
put
how I would
Pedro
cast it. I
in
didn't
the
think
Michael
about it.
character
Thought.
role, in the Goots
Andy
role,
is
Yeah.
and
Jack.
Andy Jack. It would be Jack. Which at first I was a little. I was like, well, Andy would be could be Michael.
he is Jack.
Yeah,
That
he would
little-
make a
he's
great
such
Jack.
a great playboy.
Yeah.
He would do it well. He would do that justice.
Yes.
I could see Andy having a baby show up on a doorstep.
Oh my
one
god,
day.
I would
Totally.
love
Sorry,
to see
Andy.
you guys in this movie.
Oh, that would be so
It would be the best
good.
And
reboot
you
in history.
listeners probably don't know who we're talking about, but
Well,
trust us,
Andy
it'll be good.
Fleming was a guest on the Mr. Mom podcast, which was episode 4.
And he was also played Kurt in The Motherlode, and
Right.
Brian played Andrew in the Motherlode.
and you can
too.
see all 3 of them in Dick Prick Professional. Not that this is in the plug section, but you will see
quite
them
a
in
bit
that
of
movie.
Hey, Pedro was also in the Motherlode.
That's true. Pedro
Gawky
was in the
Nichols'
Motherlode.
boobs
Yeah.
in episode 1.
He was
scene
in the
1.
very first scene of the first episode. He was the cupcake
salesman.
salesman behind the counter at the cupcakes.
Completely
place.
surprised
And
by
you guys would do an
Pandora.
amazing job at that. Can I play the baby?
Yes, done deal.
I will totally sing to you.
I will
Hollywood call
I will
us.
play Jack's mom.
Hollywood call
right,
us.
right.
Yeah.
I'm so excited! I'm so excited! I'm so scared!
All right. Welcome to Nervous Breakdowns. This is the part of the show where we read bad casting breakdowns. Casting breakdowns, of course, are is information that goes out to actors when they're trying to cast something. What is the film about? What is the type? And we like to read the bad ones that make us sad inside to be women. All right.
There's so many bad ones.
Brian's got one. This comes from a site, Sarah, right? What site does this come from?
Casting Call Whoa. It's a Tumblr. And it
So
has a lot of these.
Yeah,
stuff
so you
like
can read
this.
more of these. It's
Casting Call Whoa.
Casting Call Whoa. And I'm sure if you have a bad one, you can send one to them, probably. Take it away, Brian.
So the first character is Detective Mayfield, white male, of course, in his 40s or 50s, to play Detective Mayfield, a reserved but determined man who always gets to the root of his investigations. Okay. Detective Clayton, a young, clumsy, relaxed, fresh in the field detective. He's in his mid-20s, early 30s. Mike, the leader of the 3 office workers, in his 20s. He's smart and plans ahead. Rob is loyal to Mike, but can still think for himself. Also in his 20s, but can be temperamental. Actually, I read past the typo there, but there's a typo. Also in his 20s. Sure. Alfred follows Mike and Rob like the run of the group. Also in his 20s, he's relaxed and does whatever the other 2 say. The maid, a quiet lady who finds the dead body, doesn't talk as she's too scared. Wow. So they're casting for 6 roles here, and the only female role is a quiet lady who finds a dead body and is too scared to react.
A silent maid.
And
A
you notice
silent
that all the
maid.
rest
No
of
name.
the male characters have descriptions of the personalities and their relationships
Yeah,
with each other, and they all
because they're allowed
talk.
to be human beings.
And they're different ages. The maid is probably going to be like a young,
25
attractive
female.
woman.
That's a
I'm just gonna
18
stay
to 25.
silent during this conversation as my audition for this role.
I, too, am going to be silent as I'm too scared to speak.
Or just like make a Tina Belcher noise and just like,
All right. Welcome to Plug It Up. This is the part of the show where we talk about what we're up to and what our guests are up to. And today's guest is Brian. Brian, what would you like to plug?
Let's see. I got a few things in the works. I just starred in this Stephen King film called Rainy Season.
Nice.
With a group of really, really talented people, and it was an amazing experience.
and a killer mustache.
Killer
Corner
mustache.
shops.
Rivals
It was a lot of fun.
Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I don't know. Tom Selleck's mustache should have its own Facebook page. I would totally.
I'm sure it
follow
has its own Tumblr. I'm
Nice.
sure.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it has its own porn site, guys. Let's be real.
But yeah, so that was an amazing experience, kind of a period piece, which was really nice.
Awesome.
You can find out more information at www.rainyseasonmovie.com. Follow
Awesome.
the progress of that.
Great.
Really great.
And
Also,
female directed film, right? That's a
female
woman
directed
director.
and written film. Yes.
So
Vanessa's
Nice.
she's
Go
an
check
amazing
it out.
talent. Yeah.
Support women who direct.
There's also a play that I'm doing called Girl's Life, playing
Great.
at Pinch and Ouch. Really amazing, talented cast.
Great.
The play tugs at all sorts of heartstrings, lots of laughter, lots of crying, etc.
And you guys do have a killer cast for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing
It's
cast.
pretty
really
awesome. I'm really
excited.
happy
Yeah.
about this play. Also, so there's a pilot that I did a while ago that will be airing soon on TNT.
this.
Yeah, this is
Brand new information.
called Good Behavior.
Oh, cool.
It's
Have I seen that promoted places?
Possibly. I think.
Is it just a pilot or is it a series?
Well, so we shot the pilot. They TNT picked it up.
Okay.
So
Great.
there is season 1 starts soon.
That's
Yay,
so
that's so
great.
awesome, Brian.
Yeah. I only have a
Nice.
small role in it, but I was really
So
happy to be a part of it.
what?
So it
That's
was a
I've
lot
never
of
had
Awesome.
anything on TNT.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Shit.
And there's a movie coming out later this year called Office Christmas Party that I'm in.
Oh, cool.
which
Okay,
was a
yeah.
lot of
With
fun.
Jennifer
Yeah,
Aniston's right
Jennifer
there.
Aniston,
Yeah, okay,
Jason
awesome.
Bateman.
Oh, I love those guys.
TJ Miller was he's
TJ Miller is hilarious.
Awesome.
Olivia Munn, who I'm secretly in love with, but
Yeah.
it probably wasn't a secret when I met her because I was just kind of like
You were just
I wasn't
gushing.
able to talk.
You had to like wipe the drool off your chin.
Her dog, we're in the makeup trailer. Her dog jumps in my lap and then she just walks over. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. He does this all the time." And like, "Oh, hi, I'm Olivia." And I'm just like,
And you're like,
Brian.
Do you want to marry me?
Awesome. Do you have a website or anything else where can we find you? Where can we find you if we want to know more about you?
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
you tweet?
I should totally create a website. It's like well past time for me to do that,
Yeah.
but I have yet to do that.
So it's too late, I guess.
But I'm all over Facebook and
Facebook. Follow him on Facebook.
Yeah, Instagram, Bastions. I think
Instagram,
no,
yeah.
that's my Instagram.
Yeah, that's
Bastions.
everything for you.
It's B Ashton S, my name.
His name is Brian Ashton Smith.
Yep, whole thing.
All right. Thank you, Brian. And Sarah.
So my most recent film, Dick Pic Professional, is about to be edited, and it's really exciting. It's going to be funny, and Hillary stars in it, and Brian actually is a part of it as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be super funny.
Yeah.
And Hillary.
So you can watch PYT's web show available on our Vimeo channel for Critical Crop Top. There will be new episodes coming out soon. They're currently on the cutting room floor.
Well, they're not on the cutting room
Not
floor.
on the floor. They're just in the cutting room.
They're in the cutting
There
room.
are parts of them on the floor. Let's be honest.
Yes, parts, yeah.
But that'll be coming out soon. And then you can also follow us on Facebook. I highly encourage you to follow us on
Yeah, please
Facebook
do.
at Critical Crop Top. or at Feminine Mistake Podcast. But Critical Crop Top is where we're going to see the majority of the action. We are
Correct.
starting a writers group for our live sketch show coming out in October. If you're in Atlanta, Georgia, please follow us. Make sure you're available and come see our live
Clear
sketch
your
show. It's gonna be
schedules.
awesome.
Clear your schedules for
can't
that.
wait.
But we will be going live from our writers' room on our Facebook page, and so you can see us while we create brand new sketches
It'll be
for you
fun.
to write, and we read them for the very first time with the writers in the room. So that'll be really exciting. Follow us on Facebook at Critical Crop Top.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to plug our Vimeo channel. That's Critical Crop Top on Vimeo. You can find the entire Motherload web series, which I'm in, and Brian Ashton Smith is in. And you can also find our newest video, 80s Dating Video Remix, and a lot of other
That all
stuff.
4 of us are in, actually. Brian's
That's
voice
true.
is
Brian's voice
featured
is in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yep.
I've got the line in there.
Indeed.
Just-
He's got a line in there. And lots of other fun stuff, like Sarah's Hi Grandma and some other things. And of
War on
course,
Christmas,
War on
Honest Makeup
Christmas, yeah.
Blog.
So there's a lot of funny stuff there, and we'll be continuing to add things. Also, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, Critical Crop Top. You can follow this podcast on Facebook, Feminine Mistake Podcast. You can also subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud.
Do yourself a favor and subscribe.
Oh, thank you.
And then leave like iTunes, like
Reviews.
Reviews.
Like, they're
It's
like
like, oh my
love
gosh,
notes.
this was
So
such an
subscribe.
do that.
If you want to leave us a review, we would like that. And thank you, Brian, for being on the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having me, guys.
Brian.
It was a pleasure.
And thank you, listeners, for listening to the podcast.
Love
We
you all
will
too.
See you
I
soon.
think you're okay.
Or listen to you soon.